Hello everybody, welcome into our latest live broadcast. We had to postpone our regular start time because our internet service provider was down, maybe still is. I don't know. We have a connection. Will it be stable? It's hard to know. But I really am excited and enthusiastic about showcasing the brand new Synology 925 Plus that we received today. Boy, I'll tell you, sometimes we don't do videos because we don't get products in time. Sometimes we don't do videos because we have construction going on and it's too noisy. Sometimes we don't do videos because the internet is down. So everything's got to align just right, where we've got the product, we've got the bandwidth, and we have the environment, which is ideal for broadcasting. And if today turns out that, that it's going to be a rough go of it with regards to the internet not stabilizing, we will have to reshoot this again. One thing I want to make sure of is I give a fair shake to Synology in their latest 925 model, or 925 Plus as the case may be, just as I would any other time. And if I am not able to broadcast to my regular standard, then we will do a repeat performance and try again. But here's hoping that everything will go well the rest of today with regards to our internet service provider. I want to give a shout out and a thank you to our friend Buster. Buster sent me this gift that is the art of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. And I never played the game Jedi Survivor, but apparently the artwork in it is amazing enough to justify a book. And, I am a Star Wars fan. So thank you, of course, to our friend Buster out there in Scotland. He's very thoughtful. He knows my birthday's coming up, and he just wanted to send something for that. And he said something else was on the way too. Wow, thank you. I don't need to be reminded of my birthday. But it's going to happen whether I like it or not. And, might as well make the best out of it. A shout out to our friend Buster for just being the cool guy that he is. And let me jump over here to the chat room and see if we got people joining us, because yeah, you're getting sort of a last minute notification, and things that we are reacting to rather than planning are what's happening right now. So hopefully people do get the notice and will join us. But if we don't get the usual turnout, we'll know why, right? It's not anybody's fault. These things just happen. Today, we are working with a NAS unit, and I've been a little frustrated with the last couple NASs I've reviewed. The out-of-box setup with the TerraMaster was very confusing and frustrating. And then dealing with the Ugreen NAS, which had no guest account, shuts the whole process down for me, makes the whole thing, it doesn't matter about anything else. They could have done everything else perfectly, but the omission of a guest account is something that nobody else does. Synology, QNAP, ASUS Store, TerraMaster, they all have guest accounts. I require them. Without the guest account, I can't use it. The fact that Ugreen removed it or doesn't offer it, well, they've got some polishing to do. They're a new company, so, give them some time. And there's been some talk about the latest Synologies only requiring or only working with Synology branded drives. Is that true? Is Synology requiring you to use their own drives now on their newest models? And if so, is there a workaround for it? So on top of the regular sort of annual updates for products, we'll get better processors, and Synology is sort of the leader, the one everybody's trying to compare themselves to when it comes to the stability and the intuitive nature of their operating system, plus all of the app and variety of apps they have in their store that you can put onto the Synology is basically the bar by which everybody else that makes NASs is compared, and rightfully so. So when we hear something that's potentially negative about Synology, the leader that everybody is trying to, match up to, I'm certainly skeptical, because it doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? So rather than take anybody's word for it, we asked if Synology would send us one, and they said yes. And we're not under any obligation. Like Ugreen wanted control of the review. They wouldn't let me do anything live. Synology said, yeah, go live, do your thing. Thank you. All right, I appreciate that. Because you know I'm going to be honest. And sometimes I misunderstand things, and I'll come back and do a follow-up and say, you know, one of the things I had an issue with was my lacking of understanding. That happens. It happens to you too, just that I do it on camera. That's our only difference. So let's unbox it. I expect it's going to look pretty much the same as a 923 and the 918 and everything else. But, you know, most of the upgrades that happen year to year are happening internally. They often, Synology will make like a plus model and a non-plus model. I have learned to always get the plus model. Don't do what I've done and try and save some money and think, well, I don't need the features of the plus model. Because, well, that's probably true when you make that decision, things change. And you're going to find out, much as I have, if I would have gotten the plus model, I wouldn't be in the situation of needing to replace the NAS to accommodate the needs of the customer. So there are just reasons that you may not yet need that the plus models of Synology will accommodate, and the non-plus never will. And that means in order to accommodate that change, you'd have to replace the NAS. Versus if you had the plus model, you just enable a feature that you just weren't using before. And there's not that big of a price difference. So for my attitude, always get the plus model. I'm done trying to save money only to burn myself later because I made a bad decision. I have 2 NASs at current clients that have Synologies that are not plus models. And I can't, for example, when SMB3 was allowed to do the update, the DSM allowed you to do multi-channel, so you could run both gigabit ports at the same time without any software or anything. It would have doubled my client's bandwidth. I cannot enable that. There are workarounds, and none of them are reliable. And that won't work for my clients either. But if I had gotten them the plus model, and this is just a random example off the top of my head, then we would have gotten that feature, and all I would have had to do is turn it on and hook the extra Ethernet cable up. It's the easiest upgrade, and it would have doubled their bandwidth. No need to replace any switches. We don't go to 2.5 gig. It's just 2 1 gig connections that run together at 2 gig. I did not know that was going to be a thing. Now the whole NAS has to be replaced. If we want to increase bandwidth, that's all we can do. So, all right, the 925, I'm just unboxing here. We've got something in here. Another little box here. And then looking inside. Take this out. That's just cardboard. And underneath is our NAS right here. And I'm guessing nothing else is in the box. These are going to be diskless. You have to provide your own disks. Well, this is a 4-bay. You don't have to use 4 drives. You could use 1. It won't be much of any sort of redundancy with 1 drive, but the idea is that if you don't have the money or the budget to propagate all of the bays, you could start with 1 and add them as need and budget allows until you fill up all 4. And then if you do fill up all 4 and you want to go to another 5, let's say, there's an add-on unit you can buy. So again, you don't have to replace the entire NAS. These are often things people aren't thinking about. And I'm one of those people who's changed the way they think about it, because client needs change. And there's no client that would have said, no, don't double our bandwidth because we don't need it, if all I had to do was click a button and add a cable, which was going to happen if I had ordered the Plus series instead of the non-Plus series for my clients. And I was trying to save my clients money. Anyway, here's our unit. It looks like any other of this format. It looks like the same case we're accustomed to. We see the 2 fans in the back. I'm looking in the back for our networking. I see a LAN 1 and LAN 2. Reset button, the regular familiar power cable. The expansion bay is a USB Type-C port. That's if you wanted to add the expansion bay onto this and get another, 5 or whatever ports. We've got a USB port back here on top of the one that's intended for the expansion bay. Expansion bay is a little tiny USB Type-C. It says expansion next to it. The other USB port and the one up here, those could be used for backup drives or lots of other alternatives for that USB. Plugging in a UPS so the UPS can communicate with the NAS and power it down. There's a Kensington lock. I don't see the speed of the network. On the bottom, we've got spots right here, removable bays for installing NVMe drives to use for caching, read caches, write caches, or even extending the size of your array. That's super easy to get into. It's completely toolless. You just pop your NVMe drive in there. This little piece just clicks it in and holds it there and put your cover back on. You couldn't ask for that to be any easier. There's something underneath here too, which I don't know what this is, but there's a cover there. What does that do? I don't know what that's for. I have no idea. It's right behind the power switch. It looks like there's some kind of a jumper pin on there for something. And I like to look at how intuitive modern technology is, because if it's done well, if it's engineered and designed well, then you have some basis of reference point to what to expect. Then the idiosyncrasies that require documentation to understand were not implemented well, in my opinion. Everything should be intuitive unless they're just some novel new creation that's out of the box thinking that there is no comparable reference to, at which point documentation would be required. But if it's an extension of an already existing platform or idea, it should carry over relatively intuitively to anybody with baseline experience. That's my opinion. These are lockable drive trays here. Now, one of the things that you'll notice right out of the gate is, for whatever reason, and this was very unique, Ugreen decided that they would label the drive trays 1, 2, 3, 4. But the drive tray orders don't matter. There's no reason you need to put drive 1 here and drive 2 there. It's all misleading. It's like whoever designed it didn't understand that you were creating an OCD scenario. I don't want to see 2, 3, 1, 4. I want to see 1, 2, 3, 4. But the drives themselves are not what you're worried about. It's the slots. You have slot 1. This is slot 1. And so mostly on NASs, you're going to see the slot is labeled. And why this is important is if you have a drive failure, then it'll tell you, usually with lights on the front, often with an email, which drive is failed. So even without looking at an interface, looking at an app, if I just look at the lights and everything's green, but drive 3 is red next to drive 3, with the Ugreen, if I had drive 3 in drive 1 position, let's just say that this said 3, then I might mistakenly remove a good drive. And now with a bad drive and a removed good drive, the NAS shuts down. It's not functional anymore. But if it was telling me slot 3 is the problem, then it wouldn't, there's no reason for these to have numbers. They're all equal in every way, and to put numbers on things that are exactly the same is pointless and confusing to people. So it's the slots that you want to number. So I want to know the drive in slot 3, not the tray that says 3 on it, because that can be moved around to any slot. The slots can't be moved. That's why you number the slots. Nobody else does that. That is a Ugreen thing. And it's a minor annoyance, but it's so inexplicable. There's no justification for that. It's just a decoration that is unnecessary and confusing to people who don't understand that about network attached storage or RAID arrays in general. The position of the drive won't matter. If I take these out and shuffle them and put them all back in, my RAID array will still boot and work just fine. So to put numbers on them is pointless, and it's confusing. And Synology, much like anybody else, they label the slots. All right, I want to put that out there and make you aware of it, because I didn't know anybody would be daft enough to do that. And what that, you know, for somebody unfamiliar, might think that that's important. Those numbers are big, you know. This must be important. It isn't. It's all just it's like painting a stripe on a car. Oh, my car is going to go faster now. I painted a stripe on it. So I appreciate that Synology does not do that. Okay? That's all I'm trying to say in a long way of saying it. Here in the box, we have some accessories. Got a giant power brick. Look at the size of that mamma jamma. Now these power bricks, they have multiple 4 pins inside of them. This isn't going to work in anything else but a Synology. So you don't have to worry about labeling it. It's only going to fit in a Synology. It won't go anything else. And this power brick is, how many watts? 10 amps. So 10 amp, 12 volt power supply. Now we got these little keys, and that's to lock these doors, but that's not a secure. It's just a little plastic lever. This is not as easy to break free as the U-green ones, but they're still pretty easy. This is mostly a very minor deterrent for curious fingers. I never lock them. We've got an Ethernet cable in here, which I won't use. Oh, there's 2 of them, 2 Ethernet cables. We've got some screws. I won't use these because the drive trays do a great job of holding the drive in with drive rails that snap in. No tools are required. But if you want to use 2.5-inch drives, obviously you'd have to secure them some way, or there'll be nothing to hold them in a 3.5-inch tray. That's just math. We've got to start here, QR code, and safety instructions. That's it. So as far as like paper documentation goes, nobody's doing that anymore. It's a waste of resources, and it's difficult to get the latest updates to people if it's already been printed. What are you going to do? Mail them another manual? So you just download the PDF file or go to the website for the documentation. This little box here, this is going to have something in it, right? Oh, that's going to be the power cable. This is using a standard PC power cable that's going to plug in there. And I think that's all that's in here. I'm going to use my standard PC power cable. I won't even use this one, but we'll just keep it fresh in the plastic there. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what is it? Like, how is this different from any of the other Synologies that look exactly the same? So to answer that, I think probably best if we look at Synology's website or Amazon and look at what they've done differently with regards to processing power and new features they've added. Let me just take a quick look here. I am noticing the video stopping and starting. I want to make sure that if everybody else is having this issue, or if is it just me. I have to think about how I want to proceed with today's video if I can't get it done smooth. I am recording the video locally, so I know that if I had to re-upload the video as a recorded video, it'll remove any sort of live stuttering. I just want to make sure that that this is not an issue for the rest of you. The ISP is still working. They say that, but everything shows we're up. And I don't see any dropped frames. Oh, no, I do see some drop frames. So we're going to try and march on regardless. And if need be, at least it will be recorded smooth. And I can always re-upload the content. Yeah, everybody says they saw that lag. Okay. Well, as long as it's not just continually happening, if it was momentary, that happens. Thank you for the feedback. And if it does start continually making the video difficult to watch, let me know, please, because we may have to just give it a day and try again. I had plans for a different video tomorrow, but everything may have to be put off now if the ISP won't let us continue with the show as scheduled today. So I'm going to try. Let me take a quick look over here at the video notes, because there's where we have our links. And if you look at the official link from Synology, we'll go to the Synology website, and then we'll bring up our window capture here, and that should pull up. There it is. This is the unit we have in front of us here. And of course, their promotion of it is it's the ports are now 2.5 gig ports. We've been waiting a long time for Synology to make that standard, and it looks like they finally have. So, hallelujah, that's fantastic. There's a little bit about the NVMe slots here. There's a close-up of the rear of the case that I was just showing you, and our performance numbers for read and write speeds, which is fantastic. That's, I guess, if you're going to pair the 2.5s together in SMB3, you'd get a little over 500. And then you've got the NVMe, which I mentioned can be a network stash? It's a network cache. Where's my mind? And attached to your storage pool. So if you're looking for really fast access and you have a network bandwidth to back that up, this could be a great solution for you. Now, as mentioned, there is an expansion bay that's sold separately. What we've got is 4 bays, but with the expansion, it adds the option of up to 5 more. So we could still just put 1, and then later on add another one, and later on, continue to add up to 5. And that gives you another 100 terabytes of storage. If each of those drives is 20 terabytes, then the unit on the left would be 80 terabytes, and the unit on the right would be 120, right? Am I doing the math right? No, that'd be 100. 5 times 20 is 100, 4 times 20 is 80, 100 plus 80 is 180. There you go. Actually, we should be able to go bigger than that. We should be able to go 24 terabytes, and this number could be 200. But will they let us use them? I don't know yet. They've improved their cloud and AI performance with regards to sorting through pictures or documents that you perhaps just willy-nilly throw in there and you can't find what you're looking for. And their surveillance station has been improved upon if you're going to use this to record video from security cameras 24/7, like in a business. And they're talking about the Synology Drives. This has been sort of the point of contention that everybody's balking about, requiring supposedly the use of these drives, and that even though Synology doesn't make these drives, they're saying you have to use their drive. So I don't know about that yet. We want to confirm.
We have email.
And we have email. Okay, thank you. And of course, trusted by experienced IT professionals. Well, that's true. I'm an IT professional and I trust them. I use one myself. We have one in Studio A. We had one at Studio B, and we have yet another at Studio C. And half of my clients have Synologies. The other half have QNAP SSD NASs because Synology, to the best of my knowledge, still does not offer an SSD NVMe NAS. So it wasn't like I had a choice. But that being said, there's nothing about Synology I don't like. It's what I use myself. But as anybody else, like anybody else, I have concern about this drive requirement situation. So let's go now to, let's see if I can open another browser window. Hang on for just a minute. Let's go back to camera 1. I go back to my video notes and look at how it's being promoted in Amazon. And it's about a $700 NAS. Brand new, just came out. So keep that in mind. And you have to provide your own disks. It doesn't come with any drives. Specs-wise, what are we using for a CPU? Let's see. See, here we go with the whole limitations on drives. There's not much in reviews because this just came out, and this doesn't say they're a verified purchaser, so we don't know that they're talking from experience here. That's what I'm concerned about. You got one person with a 5-star, one person with a 1-star. That gives you an average of 2.5. We don't have enough data yet to establish a consensus. So I'm very open-minded about this, and I want to see for myself. I'm still looking for the, yeah, please note the DS925 only supports drives on the official compatibility list. Drives not listed as compatible may have functionality limitations. Well, that's all boilerplate wording. That doesn't bother me. What would bother me is if they just simply won't allow me to use the drive. That's what I'm concerned about. And then, of course, it's got a 3-year hardware warranty, which is fantastic in this industry, by the way. I still don't know what the specs are, though. Let me go back over here. Did I miss the specs? Notifications. What is the processor? What is the RAM? Specs. Probably helps if I click on the right thing. Oh, it's an AMD Ryzen CPU. Oh, that's an interesting choice. Okay. It's a 2.2 gig with 4 gigs of DDR4. You get one memory module installed, but there are 2 slots. You can upgrade to a total of 2 16s, or rather, separately 2 16s for a total of 32 gigs if you're going to be using a lot of apps on this thing, like Kubernetes or Docker or VMs. You definitely would benefit from more RAM. Just as a file sharing device, it won't benefit us to add any more. Let's see. 4 drive bays, maximum of 9 with the expansion, the 2 NVMe slots. And it's hot swappable, meaning you do not have to turn the device off to replace a drive. You can do it while it's on and people are using it. It does not interfere with people using it while you are swapping drives out. So hot swapping means you can continue to use the device. Other people can use it while you're working on it. As long as you're only working on one drive at a time, you're fine. The brightness indicators, if the LEDs are too bright, the power recovery noise level here is 20.5 decibel. You can schedule powering on and off, wake on LAN and wake on WAN. It says it's a 100-watt power supply unit. Did I say it was 100 watts? What did I say? 120 watts is what I see. So I don't know if that's a typo. That's 120 watts. Let me look again. Hold on. Hold on. "12 volts, 10 amps, 120 watts. That's definitely what it says. So I think we got a little mistake here. We'll point that out to them. New products, this is pretty common that there's some differences between what's been posted on the site and what the end product ends up having. Sometimes the product changes and sometimes things get by proofreaders. So we'll let them know. All their certifications, warranty, everything contained in the package. And then optional accessories. Okay. For multi-memory module configurations, they must all be identical and share the same model number. Well, yes. If you really have any respect for your data, yes, that's common knowledge. All right, let's get back over to camera 1. And let me switch back over as well to the chat room so I can keep an eye on you guys, just in case you're asking me questions I'm not seeing. And check the email. Mara says we have an email. Oh, our friend Mark Gaines sends an Amazon gift card. $100 Amazon gift card. Thank you, Mark. Mark joins us from Northern Ireland. He was having some difficulty with sending gift cards, but it looks like he got it figured out. So thank you so much, Mark. And prior to today's show, we had a contribution from Mark Baggett. I want to give a shout out to Mark for a $10 PayPal contribution. And one more time, our friend Buster for that surprise birthday gift today. Now, to set this up, we don't have to use all 4 drives. And I cannot emphasize enough how much anxiety I've got about this whole drive requirement thing. So when Synology said they would send us a unit for review, I thought, am I going to be able to review it with the same drives I've been using in all the other NAS reviews? These are 22 terabyte refurbished or renewed Seagate Iron Wolves. Never had a renewed drive ever fail. And they're about $100 less than a brand new one. So you have 4 drives, that's a $400 savings. That's like buy 3, get 1 free. And I've never, knock on wood, I'm saying it out loud, I've never had one fail. They've been in use for years, by the way, over at Studio A. They've been in use for years. And at 2 of my clients, we've never replaced the original drives. They're all Seagate Iron Wolves. So my concern is if Synology only wants Synology drives, is it going to prevent me from creating an array? If I get a warning that says we don't recommend and you accept responsibility, I'm okay with that. But if it says no, you can't do it, then we got a problem. and we're going to look for a loophole, a workaround. But I don't want to jump to that yet because Seagate included this little box here with it. I say, what is this? Heavy. And I open it up, and I'll be darned if it doesn't look like it's some hard drive. So maybe Synology foresaw this. Yeah, these are Synology labeled hard drives, and they sent us 2. I didn't know they were going to do that. When a company sends you proprietary components, and it's not clear that those components are proprietary, it can lead to a misleading review, right? So we know going into this, that's all everybody's been talking about online here, is this drive requirement. And I'm not going to let this distract me from my curiosity of what's going to happen if we use these. But let's do it the way Synology has sent it to us, right? With the idea that we're giving them the benefit of the doubt, that we get the experience we're supposed to get by using the products they want us to use. Because if that doesn't work, there's no point going any further. And if it works great, then the natural thing for me to do next is take these drives out, use those drives, and see if it prevents us from using them. And if it does, can we work around that, or is it just not for you? Okay. And even if we can work around it, there's no guarantee that that will continue to work after an update, where you would yet need an ongoing, never-ending workaround every time. Now, the reason Synology does this, I can understand, is look, if you've got a NAS unit, your data is probably important to you, and you shouldn't just be using whatever drives you've got laying around collecting dust to do something so important. At the same time, though, how much of this is really justifiable on a scientific study to tell me what is the qualifiers of any particular drive that you are measuring compatibility by? So tell me what you're doing with these drives, or what these drives offer that these drives don't offer, or you don't know. Tell me what you're looking for, and I can do the testing myself. If you're saying the drive has to support certain features, what are those features? Instead of just telling me I have to buy your drives. I'm going to take issue with this because, well, it makes sense in a business to buy certified drives when there's you got to figure out who's going to blame, who's going to take the blame if there's a data loss, okay? And I call it the blame chain. And this is why we don't use open source projects like TrueNAS and Unraid and Open Media Vault. When we're working with real businesses, no. Because the person who put that in is the one that's going to be held fiscally liable for all the damages and losses incurred by the business. So when you can imagine Synology's being used in multi-billion-dollar corporations, and Synology is themselves a very large multi-million-dollar corporation, there's money to take. So you got to protect your assets. Protect your assets. Let me bring this up to the screen. We'll take a quick look at, I don't even know what they've sent us here. I'm going to guess it's a 4 terabyte drive, but yeah, let me walk it over there. We'll take a closer look at these drives. First and foremost, they're pretty lightweight and thin, so I know they're not going to have very many platters. And if they don't have many platters, then they're not going to hold as much data. So yeah, it's a HAT 3300. So these are either made by Seagate or Toshiba. Synology doesn't make these, but Synology does customize the firmware. Now, whether that is just changing the name of the firmware to Synology, but whatever they're doing, whatever is making this drive compatible, I wish they would specify it so we didn't have to play a guessing game with other manufacturers' drives and models. What is it specifically you're looking for? And to the best of my knowledge, that information has not been disclosed. It's been vaguely like, you know, generally speaking, we're looking for this reliability feature or system set. Okay, which ones? Specifically, what is it when you do your testing that you are testing for? Can I do the testing myself, and why not? Why are you not Why is this not transparent? If it's that important, is it something you should be keeping to yourself? So again, this may be a misunderstanding on my part. That's why I want to see what actually happened. We can sit here and we can talk all day. We can gossip and we can conjecture and we can have all of this nonsense based on misinformation or misunderstood information, miscomprehended information, or we can just do it and see what happens. And at the end of the day, when you got things to do, let's just get her done and see what happens. Now, I expect this to be pretty identical to my previous experience with setting up any Synology NANDs. I expect the same DSM operating system I'm familiar with, the same setup experience I'm familiar with. I do not expect this to be any different, but I expect this to have more power, be more responsive, and offer more features. But at the same time, I don't have to go back to day one of school and relearn everything all over again. This builds on what I already know. This should just be a spit polish of an existing product line that I personally use myself. I recommend it and use it for my clients use them. And so I come at this a little biased. I admit so. I have the freedom to use any NAS on the market. If I pan the camera over there, you will see NASs from Asus store. I sent the Ugreen one back. It's pretty bad if I have to send it back. I've got a QNAP over there. I've got TerraMaster over there, and they're fine. There's nothing specifically that I could say I'm not using these because they're not good. That's not it at all. It's just that for me, the ease of use, the form factor, the noise, how the drives go in, the polishedness of the DSM operating system is just more intuitive. It's easier. You know, if I turn alerts on for QNAP, it wants to alert me every single time it blinks its eyes. It's annoying. I don't have to manually turn all that stuff off. If I want to turn on email alerts with Synology, the default alerts are the ones I want. I don't have to go in there and modify it. It's just little annoyances like that where I can just set up the Synology, turn it on, get it configured, and go. So for that reason, I have a bias. That's what I like. I like being able to not have to go to the manual to figure out something that should be intuitive. And I'm expecting this to be more of the same from Synology. If it isn't, you'll probably see my reaction to that. So we'll just start with the first drive tray here, which has the same drive tray they've been using a long time. Unlike the TerraMaster unit, which was a metal drive tray that could ground against the circuit board, so the TerraMaster required a piece of paper down there. You might say, hey, that's a really well-made drive tray. It's not a good design. You want your drive trays plastic. You don't want any metal hitting the circuit board. So I'd like to see those little details corrected from the competitors. Now, because this is not a paid commercial, I don't have to worry about whether or not it's appropriate to talk about the competitors. I'm open-minded to all of them equally, and none of them are absolutely terrible, and none of them are absolutely perfect. But when it comes to my preference overall, when I personally evaluate against my value system and cost, I am using Synology's, and I won't make a secret about that. And again, I have 2 clients using QNAPs, but only because Synology, to the best of my knowledge, does not offer an all SSD NVMe NAS. Otherwise, they'd probably be using one. So consider everything else second best or second choice in my world. All right, and I say that for full transparency, because if I end up being upset by this, I'm already biased to like it. I'm just telling you, be ready. I have expectations, and I expect it to be as good as previous units from Synology, but better. Otherwise, why would you ever upgrade? Just stay with the old unit. So these are the same drive trays. They go in the same way. I love that they haven't redesigned it, because if you design it right to begin with, you don't have to go back and keep changing your design. It also means if you need to pick up spares, if they break or whatever reason you lose them, they're easy to find spares. The more difficult a part is to find, the more expensive it gets. So I imagine if I needed drive trays, I could probably find pretty much any drive trays from Synology. They all work the same. And so you'll notice I'm not using any tools, just my hands. I don't have to take anything apart to get to the drives, so that way we don't have to shut things down and shut a business down if we have to replace a failed drive. And I'm just trying to get these tabs to line up correctly. There it goes. And then that seats those little, I don't know what you call these. They fit inside the rails, and then I just slide the rail in to the unit all the way in and close the latch that locks it in. Now these two, we'll just leave these out for now. I don't want to confuse you. We'll just leave for now. They've sent us 2 drives. Let's make a simple RAID array. We could do like RAID 1 or RAID 0 with 2 drives. With 2 drives like this, a RAID 0 makes sense. With 4 terabytes each, that'll give us 8 terabytes of data. And then if you wanted to, you could take the other 2 and RAID that with a RAID 1, mirror it. And then you'd have 8 terabytes on the right and 8 terabytes on the left, and one would do everything the other one does. Now that doesn't make much sense to me. If I have 4 drives, I'd rather have the capacity of 3 of them with the capacity of 1 being unavailable. So if I have 4 terabyte drives, I would have 12 terabytes instead of 8 here and 8 here, where I can only access 8 with an exact mirror copy of 8 over here. I'd rather have 12, because 12 is more than 8, and just have 4 be the redundancy. And the 4 is split on a 1 terabyte each drive. So if any single drive fails, when you have a 4 drive RAID 5, that's what I talk about. You can take the drive out that's failed, put a new drive in, and you can do that while the unit is on and while people are using the drive. That is damn cool and critical if you're running a business. And you know, it's going to happen first thing Monday morning at the worst possible time, if it's going to happen. As I mentioned, I haven't had a failed hard drive since we've been using the Seagate Iron Wolves. Since the last failed drive was a 3 terabyte model, and that was when 3 terabytes was the biggest you could buy. We've come a long way since then. Hard drive reliability has gone up, but noise has also gone up on these. If you're going to buy these large capacity mechanical drives, they do chatter a lot. That's normal. Normally these are put in rooms with doors closed and typically locked. They're not normally sitting on somebody's desk. I have mine sitting on my desk inches away, and it's almost like having an inkjet printer shaking the desk sometimes. They get loud. But if you don't like that, don't use the really large drives. That's universally true regardless of the manufacturer. Or put the unit further away. It's not like it benefits me to have it closer. It's just that's where we happen to have the router, and we just have a short cable. But we could easily move it literally anywhere in the house. Let's give power to this and plug it into the network. And we'll go on we'll do the first boot experience together here. Power. And network. You do not plug in a keyboard, mouse, or monitor into this. This is all going to be accessed via a website on your own local network. Not a website anybody else can go to. A website that only you can go to on the network this is connected to. You can enable features to securely turn on remote access from other locations, but straight out of the box, you're going to configure this using a computer as the screen and keyboard and mouse, and you're going to just treat this like a website, even though it's in your house or in your place of business, wherever you keep it. We often refer to that as the intranet versus the internet. Just a little bit of nerd information for you. With that all done, let's power it on. We get the blinking blue light telling us something's happening, and then we should see some initialization happening here. What this should do, is recognize these are brand new drives. They have no format or partition, and there's no operating system. This should boot up and say, oh, there's no OS. Let me download it. And then once I download it, I'll put it on the drives, and then we can boot to the operating system. Just like Windows, we need an operating system. I hear the drives starting to initialize now. They're firing up. And then likely the LED lights will represent whether or not they're firing up and active. Obviously, the two that are missing, we should not get any drive activity lights for slot number 3 and slot number 4. Otherwise, we got some ghost drives. That's a good place to store your ghost data. So while it's firing up, we need to locate the unit. How do we find it on our network? We can open the browser. Here's one place you can start, although it may not work yet. We can try it. If I go over to the browser, and we'll go to the window capture, and I'll just type in find.synology.com. Now, we have a Synology 923 Plus running, so I expect it's going to find that one, and it'll find this one. There's no rule that says you can only have one NAS, right? So there's our 923. This is what we use in the office here at Studio B. Here's our brand new one, Synology NAS. It's giving us 192.168.68, and our 923 is 6.5. And of course, these are both plus models. I can't use the plus symbol in a server name. Anyway, let's click on Synology NAS. That's our new one, and hit the connect button. There's your end user license agreement. I'll agree to it and hit next. Now, this is the web address 192.168.68.68 that was assigned by our router, and we're going to access this just like a website. Welcome to your Synology DS925 Plus. Set up your Synology DS925 Plus now. I click install. It says, do you want to automatically download and install the latest DiskStation Manager software? It's now 7.2.2-72806 from the Synology website, or do you have your own you're going to provide locally? Man, I'm not providing that locally. Just go with that, and yeah, we could download a patch and all this other stuff. Just let it do it itself. Next. Now look, anytime you're setting up a NAS and you're going to create a new storage pool, you have to erase the drives. That's universal in how RAID arrays work. So this is a boilerplate duh statement that anybody should know. But in case you don't, here's your warning. All data will be deleted on drives 1 and 2. This action is irreversible. Check the box that you understand before you're allowed to continue. Please type in the model of the NAS. This is to verify that you're a human being doing this and not a bot. It says your product model is DS925 Plus. That's what it wants you to type in, your product model. It tells you what it is. So at some point, when bots can read that, they'll probably change that method. But for right now, that's all it needs to determine. You're a human being authorizing this deletion. Even though these drives have never been used before, we still treat them as the same caution of we're going to delete everything on them, even if there's nothing on them. Great. At that point, it can now download and install the operating system. Windows is an operating system. Mac OS stands for operating system. iOS is an operating system. Synology's DSM is an operating system specifically designed for the use of Synology NASs. It will not work on other manufacturers' NASs or on other PCs. It is a proprietary piece of software designed by the manufacturer of the hardware in the same way that Mac OS is designed for Mac products and only Mac products. It's a very similar thing. It wouldn't do you much good to hack it because there's really no benefit to that. If you want all the benefit of this with all of the support and integrity of it, it's got to run on the hardware it's specifically designed to run on. And that's why TerraMaster has theirs, and Ugreen has theirs, and ASUS Store. They all have their own custom operating systems. If you wanted to put an open source operating system like Unraid or TrueNAS or Open Media Vault, etc., there's a lot of configuration on the technical side that you must know how to do. There's a level of responsibility that is taken upon you and no longer on the company. And when it comes to any sort of compatibility, compliance, especially regulatory compliances, if there's fault failures, then the person who put that in is the one who will be held accountable. Versus if you use approved, property supported, updated, and secured operating systems from manufacturers that have their liabilities built into that, then that's obviously going to be very important for anybody who's using this to make money, should they stop making money because the thing fails or gets, you know, security compromised due to a lack of the person who set it up willingly or unknowingly not keeping it updated and secured at all times. So that's why stuff like this is important. That's why stuff like having certified drives is important in certain industries where that is absolutely a regulated requirement. For a home user, not so much. Now you can see this whole process is so easy, right? I haven't done much other than click next. And finding the Synology was the hardest part, and you saw how easy that was. So that's one of the reasons in my example, I've never used this particular model before, but I'm also not confused or misunderstanding. Everything's flowing based on my experience. It's performing based on what I'm expecting it to do. It's doing everything exactly what all of my experience and all of my expectations have led me to believe it should do. So we're off to a really, really good start here. Okay, it's even though it was counting down, it's still got a ways to go. You can see now it has downloaded the software. It is now installing the software it downloaded. Once again, it is not asking me for any information. And when you deal with a company that's been around longer, they tend to be a bit more polished. And their competition hasn't been around as long. So it's not fair to expect them to exceed what Synology is doing. It would be welcome, okay, to see that innovation, but they're just trying to keep up. So set your expectations accordingly and give them slack. They'll get there. If you don't want to give them any slack and you don't want to get there, just buy the Synology and not deal with it. Next generation data management begins here. Welcome to DSM 7.2. Hit start. We can see what's new in the version. We're not going to get into DSM on this because the DSM has been updated prior to the NAS being updated. So that's a separate video. We'll hit start. It says we give this device a name. Let's call it the DS925. Okay. Administrator account. They will not let you use the name admin. It's not going to fly. So I'll just type in, well, here, I'll just show you. Watch what happens. Synology is real strict on this. It says weak. All right, well, I don't mind if it's weak. Let me set my password. Let's see if I can do that twice. Is it going to let me do this? Allow the Synology to be displayed in the web assistant. Yes, that's so you can find it. So if the IP address changes, how am I going to find it? I have to then download a separate piece of software or use the ARP command and try and, or ping it. I can ping DS925 and get back a response. There's ways to find it, but this is the easiest way. So yeah, for security reasons. See, it's not, it says weak, but it still kind of tricked us into believing it was going to let us do that. But notice how the box is highlighted in red and it directs us to what the problem is, and the error message stays on the screen until I acknowledge it. This is what I was complaining about from TerraMaster. It wasn't clear to me where the error was, and the message would appear and disappear before acknowledging I even had time to read it. So once again, based on my experience, this is why I was upset with that process of that competitor's model. So I don't think this is too much to ask for clarity. Let's just put in the word carry. Can I use carry? Let's try that. Looks like that's going to be okay. Okay, so now it says, look, we really want to auto-update this. The question is, do you just want the important updates or do you want all the updates? I always want all the updates, but at a bare minimum, just the important updates. You'll see there's no other option here for you to make a bad decision. They've removed the bad decision checkbox that says none. Right, because if it were me, I'd have a box that says I'm a moron, and then you click that one. This is probably why I don't work for Synology. So I want this one personally. This is up to you. You can't make a wrong choice here, but I want all the latest features, not just the required ones. All right, create a Synology account. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to hit skip. But if you want access in the cloud to your data and secure access from accessing the NAS or data from a remote location, then this walks you through that securely. We're going to skip this. But it absolutely defeats some of the functionality of this device. But I have workarounds for that. Device analytics. I agree to allow Synology to collect non-identifiable data. You could turn this on or not. It doesn't matter. It's going to help them make a better experience, because if there's a crash, it's automatically reported anonymously to their developers. And if they see, this crash is starting to occur a lot, they can address it and fix it. They're going to anyway. It's just if you allow them to get that data, they'll probably do it sooner. They'll be aware of it sooner. If you wish not to participate in that, you're not obligated either way. After that, I think we're pretty well set up to create our storage pool. Securely accessed files. So again, we get back to the whole cloud thing, which I'm not interested in. I'm just going to say no thanks, but it is a feature. And if you register the device, they'll extend your warranty an extra 2 years. Again, this is up to you. For us, we have a review unit here. So anyway, two-factor authentication is always a good idea. But because we're reviewing it, we're not going to set that up. It's going to slow the review down. But if you buy one, you should absolutely 100% do this. And don't make a video showing the world, okay? So I'm just going to say no thanks, and I'll turn that on later. You need to enter your email for multi-factor authentication. And again, strongly recommend, unless you're making a public worldwide video, you should be turning this on, so that you don't lock yourself out and other people don't get in without your knowledge. So I'm going to foolishly click I don't want to secure my account. Why am I being a fool? Because I'm also showing the entire world my configuration, which is a pretty foolish thing to do. So I'm simply not going to configure that. And if you have the same reason, well, then that's fine, but I don't know anybody else who does. All right, there's a quick tour. I don't need this. I'm already familiar with DSM, so that I appreciate being able to get right to work without having to familiarize myself. First thing it says is you need to create a storage pool and a volume. It recognizes these drives are not configured. So we'll hit create now, and it takes us through this wizard. You want to create a storage pool? Yes, that's what I want to do. What kind of RAID do you want? Synology hybrid RAID means we can continue to add drives and expand this RAID. So we're using 2 drives, and then if we do the Synology hybrid RAID, we can add a 3rd drive and a 4th drive. And they don't even have to be the same size. But if you don't want that, if that's too convenient, you could do RAID 1, which is basically one drive mirrors the other one, and you lose half your storage. Or we do RAID 0, which is what I'll choose for this example, which gives us no redundancy, but combines the 2 capacities of 4 terabytes together for one single drive of 8 terabytes with no fault tolerance. You're on your own for backups. We can give the storage pool a description if we want to. I usually just leave it blank. It says, what drives do you want to use? Well, all of them. So drive 1 and drive 2. Okay, maybe you have 5 drives. You want to use 3 for one array and 2 for another. That's up to you. I use all drives, regardless if I've got 10, 3, 5. I always select one storage pool. That's me. You do not have to do that. If you want to overcomplicate your life, be my guest. Next, forming a drive check can automatically, okay, we're going to skip the drive check for now. Hit next. Then it says, okay, so you're going to combine these 2 4 terabyte drives. That's a total of 7431 because we're using gigabytes instead of gigabytes. It's still 8,000 gigs. All right, it's just the reporting the math differently. Again, this is an optional field if you want to describe it. I don't want to describe it. The modify the allocated space. We could split this into different partitions. This one big storage pool could be drive E, drive F, drive G. And then you could say I want one partition to be 2 terabytes and another one to be 3 and another one to be the remaining 3. I want to use all the space, and I'll just make folders and call those folders drive C, drive D if that's something I want to do, which I don't.
I just want one big 8 terabyte storage on my network that I can access as though it were a USB drive attached to my computer anywhere in the building on any computer at any time without having to lug it around and plug it in. It just stays in one place and is fully accessible to all wired and wireless devices on my network. That's what I want. So I'm just going to hit the max button that fills in the maximum number there. I love how it highlighted in red and showed me where the problem was. Okay, ext4 is an old Linux file system. If you're still living in 1992, highly recommend it. If you're in 2025, you should be using the B-tree file system, BTRFS, Butterfuss. It is far more advanced. Its integrity of it is much better. The likelihood of any data corruption is far less likely. Why would you want to use stuff from 20 years, 30, 40 years ago? This is, it's not ZFS, but at the same time, if a NAS does not offer me BTRFS, I will not use that NAS. I will not use it in my home. I will not use it on a phone. I will not use it for my clients. I will not, I won't use it. BTRFS is a non-negotiable requirement. And if a NAS doesn't offer it to me, I'm not using that NAS. Ask me how I really feel about it. You can turn on encryption for security or regulatory. This is going to slow the system down, but it also means if you lose your encryption key, you've locked yourself out. Nobody can ever get it back. So if you do so, I hope you make sure you always know where your key is. So this is a summary of everything where it says you want to do. You want to create a RAID 0, you want to use drive 1 and drive 2, your total capacity is going to be 8 terabytes, and you've allocated 8 terabytes, and you're doing BTRFS. That's right. For the third time, you are going to erase everything on these drives. Yes, that's what I'm trying to do, okay. And this only takes a minute, and it's going to set up that array. Once we do that, we create our share, and then we just have the share on our network. It's that easy. Now, you can create file permissions and require logins and restrict access if you want to do all that extra work, or you're required to. But because this is a review and we've got a lot of things to cover, I'm not getting into that very specific tech minutia. I only want you to know that if you want to get into that rabbit hole and secure down everything per user and require a certain login and the password has to be renewed every 30 days or every 90 days, you can do all of that the same as a server. If you want to make your life miserable, it will let you. If you want to increase security to the point of absurdity, yes, you can. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying we're not going to today because I don't set up NASs that way for myself or my clients. If you're in my house, if you're in my client's building, and they don't want you to have access to the NAS, what are you doing in the building? It doesn't make any sense that you would have access to the network, but not have access, not have permissions. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. In big companies with hundreds or thousands of employees and you don't want HR to, let's say you don't want salespeople to see the HR payroll data, that's a different story. And yes, the NAS can absolutely handle that. And you can encrypt it. You can go security out the wazoo with multi-factor authentication, encryption, user individually defined passwords and accounts, and accessibility, and read access only versus read and write access. It can keep you very busy. And that's pretty much true of all NASs, by the way. You can enable notifications at the control panel. So, all right, so basically what we've got here is RAID 0. There's no data protection. It's 2 drives acting together as one large drive with their individual sizes combined. 3.6 plus 3.6, that's 4 terabytes. Again, gigabytes versus gigabytes. We want to, you can see we're using 446.2 megs. I'm guessing that's the operating system. And you'll see it works fine with just the 2 drives. We got no issues with the drives. If we click on the details of the drives, everything is healthy and happy, right? Health info, smart info, history, etc. Smooth. Smooth as a jar of Skippy. All right. We need to create a share. Let's close this out. This is our desktop appearing in a browser. This is our actual, well, I can't show it to you, can I? The browser for the Synology appears, the desktop for the Synology appears in a browser tab. See how I've got a browser tab here, got a browser tab there. This is my Synology desktop and the icons on the Synology desktop. And I can go to the package center. This is like the app center on your phone, if that helps you understand that. Of course, there's agreement for the software, right? And we can look at what packages are installed by default and if there are any updates. We definitely want these updates for the hybrid share and for the SAN manager. I don't care if you think you're using them or not. If there's an update available, I would not play games with it. They're not doing these updates for fun. So it only takes a minute. If you're using the SAN manager, the update will interrupt it. But whether or not you're using it, it's always best to have the update for any installed app, because even if you're not using it, the installed app could be running services in the background that are vulnerable to hacking attacks that have no impact on you clicking on something. Just because the unit is turned on and plugged in. This is true of all operating systems, by the way. All right, so I see everything like under installed. This is the pre-installed apps that are sort of the minimum requirement or recommendations from Synology, and I'm just going to leave that as is. We're going to go to the control panel, and then under, where's it going to be? Shared folder? Well, we have to create a shared folder. We haven't created a Synology account. We can do that later in here. There's application privileges. We talked about individual security privileges defined per user. I don't use that. Let's go to the shared folder. Let's see what it says. Nothing. We've not. So we've got this big empty drive, but we haven't done anything with it yet other than have this space. It's a big open field and we've done no construction. So we got to flatten out a part of the field first to figure out where the foundation is going to go for what we want to build. And that way we want to create what we call a share. When I click on create a shared folder, that's what I want. I can give it a name. I like to call my shared folder public because everybody's allowed to access it. If you're in my building connected to my network, this is what I'm giving you access to. I want it to have a universal name. It's pretty obvious. It's the public folder, and it's the only folder I have, by the way. And every bit of data in every other folder will be inside of this one master folder. I can hide it. I can enable a recycle bin. Sure, why not? Everything looks good, and it's going to be located on our only volume. We don't really have anywhere else to put it. So next, it says you can add additional security with this. We don't want to do that. It just makes life complicated. For the purposes and requirements of my personal use and that of my clients, we don't use any of these settings. You can enable data checksum for advanced data integrity. That's probably a good idea. We can enable file compression. Not so much a good idea. This is going to slow everything down, and it can give you more space. It can potentially hold 12 terabytes of data on 8 terabytes of storage by compressing it down. That also makes data recovery much more complicated should you need it, which you shouldn't because you always have backups. But it also means the processor has to keep compressing and decompressing files every time you want to read or write anything. That defeats the point of any sort of convenience by slowing it down. But in some businesses, in some paranoid individuals' imaginations, they will turn this on, and that's what it's there for. Since we're not required to, we're not going to torture ourselves. I just hit next now, and okay. Look, there's a guest account by default. Where have I not seen this before, you green? It's disabled by default for security reasons, but they don't restrict you from having it because you're too dumb. Okay? So there's the Carey account and the admin account, which are mostly the same thing. I want to turn this guest account on, and I want the guest account to have access to the public folder so we don't require logins and passwords. That's my preference, and that's how I set it up for myself. This is how I set it up for my clients. And you cannot access this from outside of the network. You must be in the building to get access, guest access into this. That's my choice of how I choose to configure it. You don't have to configure it this way. I'm going to hit apply here. And if I go over to the user section and look under under guest, it says the account is deactivated. That's normal. That's a good security default. But since I know better and I'm on a secure local network, I can uncheck this box. There's no box that says to enable. It's just a box that says to deactivate. If we turn that box off and then hit save, now the guest account is enabled. So if I look at the permissions on that shared folder, let's see, somewhere here. This is our shared folder. I have to find it, where the permissions are. Edit. So again, if you change your mind, you want to turn encryption on or off. Advanced. Gee, I wonder if permissions is what I was looking for. I want to make sure that the guest has read and write access to this folder. And you could set up multiple folders with different permissions. I like to keep everything simple. And hit save. Now, in theory, I want you to think about this. Let's go back over to my screen capture. Instead of window capture, let's just grab the whole screen here. That means you're going to see my OBS. There we go. And I'll minimize that. Okay, so now you're seeing everything the same way I see it. I'm going to go on my search bar. And remember, we're at 192.168.68.68, right? Remember that? And the name of the NAS is DS925. So I could type // I could type 192.168.68.68 /public, and it should open a big 8 terabyte empty folder without asking me for a username or password. And there it is. I could also type in / DS925 / public. That should be the same thing. If I don't know my IP address, I can go to the command prompt, cmd, and hit enter and type in ping DS925, because that's the name I gave it. And that's how I can find my IP address. Or I can use the Synology Desktop Assistant, which is a piece of software, or I can browse to find.synology.com. There's 5 different ways you can find this if you need to log in to configure it. It's that easy. The setup couldn't be any better, in my opinion. I have no suggestion for improvement. Beautiful. Love it. This is what all the other NAS manufacturers should strive to attain, such an intuitive interface. All right, let me turn off screen capture. Let's go back to camera 1 again. All right, let me take a quick look in the chat and see what I've been missing this whole time. Welcome in, Charlie Purdy, Michael Lavelle, Andy W6AD, Jose Lopez, Thomas MacT, and Ron Barnish all saying hello. And there's Luke Greenia joining us, along with Dennis Hill and Dazzle555. You thought I forgot about you guys. Just briefly. Essential Working Too Hard joins us, Dustin Fuller. Eddie Casanova, Mark Gaines, and I think I got everyone. Not leaving anybody out on purpose. Okay. Standard, everything else when we talk about the Synology is now in the DSM. There's really not much more to talk about the hardware. That's great, fantastic. Now here's the part that's on all of our minds. Do I have to use the Synology drives? And what if I don't? Hey, I'm a child of the teenager of the 80s. And we used to challenge people like Pee Wee Herman, you know. I know you are, but what am I? Make me. You're already made and you're a mess. Well, what are you going to do about it? So that's in who I am. So if some entity or authority tells me I can't do something, my initial response is, or what? What are you going to do about it? You can't help it. It's just how I was raised. All right, so what we can do is turn this unit off. And there's a couple ways. Once again, there's lots of different ways we can do this. We can push the power button in and probably hear a beep. There it is. And now it'll blink as it powers down. If I keep holding the power button in, it'll do like the same as pulling the plug. That's not ideal because that's how you could lose data. Even though with the file integrity of BTRFS, it's not likely going to cause any problem. It's just not a good habit. Just if you have to physically pull the power, I hope you got a damn good reason for that, other than just being impatient. That shuts it down properly. So here's what I want to do. As I mentioned, it doesn't matter where we put these drives. There's no such thing as a drive 1 and drive 2. This will continue to work as a RAID 0 RAID array, regardless of what slots we put these back in. And there's no reason for there to be numbers on these. It's stupid. So I don't know why Ugreen does that. I think it's just they think it looks cool. But again, it creates confusion and people think, oh, I got to be honest. I know better, but I still want to see the numbers in order because it'll bother my OCD. It's really stupid. So even I am not immune from that psychological effect. So thank you, Synology, for not numbering the trays. You number the slots. Okay, here's my 22 terabyte drives. These are the ones I've been using in all of my NAS reviews. Not like I'm sitting around a bunch of hard drives. These are all I have. Okay, so you're going to keep seeing the same things over and over because I don't have a vault filled with hard drives. Oh, which ones do you want to use today? Do I want to take the Ferrari or the Lamborghini today? Oh, let's do the Aston Martin. Oh, no, no, no. Let's do the Bugatti. That's just not the world I live in. I'd like it to be. No. When I just wasn't born into that. It wasn't meant for me. And I'm not willing to work 27 hours a day for the next 10 years burning people in order to get there. They're not willing to do that to other people. So those are the only ways I know how it's done. Again, we're going to use these other two drives, and for only reasons of OCD, I'm going to put them back in the same slot. Even though I've made it very clear now that's not important. Right? Now these should come up as blank, even though they have another NAS manufacturer's RAID configuration on them. It should all be a different foreign language to Synology. It makes no sense. It might as well be blank. They'll know something's on it, but even if there isn't, they'll still warn you. You're going to erase everything regardless, right? So do expect more of that. And that's the responsible right thing to do, because you can't presume somebody's not using a NAS for the first time and doesn't realize, oh, it's going to erase my data. I can't use the operating system off my TerraMaster or my Synology or the other way. No. And that might be like, duh, to me, but to them, like, I didn't know, right? So you just put that statement out there. You make it clear they've read it and have to acknowledge they've read it. And that way they can never get mad at you. At least not for that. So knowing that I did not, well, first of all, when I created the RAID array, I created it with 4 drives. But what I'm curious about is if we just kind of do the same thing as we've already done with the Synology drives, can we accomplish that same thing without barriers or obstacles with the Seagate Ironwolf drives? I don't know. I've heard some things online, but have you tried it? We're about to try it together. See what I'm getting at? So let me jump back over to the browser. When it boots up, it may not come back up with 192.168.68. It's going to start all over again. All that stuff I configured is gone. There's no more operating system on here. That's on here. We're starting over from blank again. That means it'll have to say, okay, these are drives that I don't recognize. Do you want to format them? Do you want to go online and download the DSM and install it? Let's do it. See what it does. Give it a minute to initialize. We should hear some kind of a beep or something come from this. waiting for the beep. There it is. All right, now I think we should be able to go and find this the same way we did before. So let's go back to the browser and find.synology.com. Oh, it's actually finds.synology, but it corrected it. And let's see if, yep, it still finds our 923 and it finds our 925. And it says it's not installed. Correct. So connect. All of this should start looking familiar to you. So hopefully we can get through this a little quicker without all of the exposition. Unrecognized drives detected. DS925 cannot recognize drive 1 or 2. Oh, that's not good. Connect to the internet for automatic updates or choose to manually update to refresh compatibility configuration. Okay, so what they're saying is the list of compatible drives is being updated by Synology. So if it's not on the list today, you know, fresh out of the box, there is a way to update the compatibility list and then check again. So how do we do the manual update? Go to the download center and download the Synology hard drive solid state drive offline update pack. Select the proper category and the corresponding model. Go to the operating system tab, scroll to the update modules section to download the update pack. Is there an update pack? Let's go see. I don't know, I've never done this before. I've never had to do this before. And will it even make any difference? Again, we can talk about it all day or we can just do it and see what happens. I'm looking for the DS925. DS918, there it is, right there. Category. Internal tray, yeah, okay. Find drives. Always use and manage 4K native drives separately. Always install enterprise class drives, yeah. Click to check the change log. So the brand is all Synology. I don't see anybody else's brand here. Where is the update package? Is there one? What did it say? Go to downloads? Is that right? No, that's where we already were. NAS, Synology product. Come on now. 4 bay, so we'll go down to the 4 bay. And then it's a 925, and they're all in reverse numerical order with the newest on top. That's our, okay, update module right here. Synology hard drive solid state offline update pack. It allows you to manually update the latest drive compatibility. Okay, let's download it. It's a .sa file. That's interesting. Now that we've got that, let's come back over, browse to that downloaded file. Downloads, right here. This is the file here. And update. File corrupted or format incorrect. Expect that. Go back over to the download center. Download it again. It's not a zip file, it's a .sa file. Come over here. Unrecognized drives, manually update. Browse. Update. File corrupted or incorrect format. Well, that's not supposed to be there. I'm on the right model, right? 925. Yep. I'm looking for the right thing, right? Update pack that's offline. That's not working. Okay, Synology's got some work to do here. Okay, this is all new to me. I have an idea. Let's do this. We have 2 working drives. it is refusing, apparently, to allow us to say, I'm okay. I have accepted responsibility for using drives that you say aren't compatible. And the reason I'm okay with it is I've been using this in previous model Synologies without a problem. In fact, my understanding is if I configure these two drives in any other older Synology model and then move them over, it doesn't have a problem with it. That's what I'm told. So even they have a loophole. But I've got another idea. What if we just go ahead and boot to these? Watch this. Let me just show you what I'm saying. Let's turn this off. Just hold the power button in until it beeps. It'll flash a little bit, power itself off. It's off. As I mentioned, these aren't in any particular order, so just I'm going to put them back in here. I don't remember if this was drive 1 or 2, but I'm putting it in slot 3, and I'm putting this one in slot 4. And there should be enough intelligence. There should be enough intelligence. Should be enough intelligence to recognize these two drives go together, and we're going to boot from those two, and then it doesn't know what these two are. But at least I can get into the operating system and look at some details of these drives it doesn't recognize. Let's see if that works the way I think it should work. And we'll go from there. Well, my YouTube Studio fell way behind, so give me just a minute here to catch up. Okay, I don't see anything happening in the chat room, but my video was at least a half an hour behind. I don't know why that happens on YouTube Studio, but this is booting now, and I'm going to wait till I hear the beep. Oh, I'm still hearing the drives. One by one, you'll hear them. Brrr, they fire up. Chatter, 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 chatter. And then the next one, brrr, chatter, chatter, chatter. You don't want everything spiking on at the same time. So even Synology is, they're firing up the drives in the recommended way, which is safer and more reliable, rather than just spiking all the power on all 4 drives at the same time, putting that huge drain on the power supply, and then having all that excessive vibration occurring simultaneously. I'm sure those are all the reasons, and probably more. That's if I hear that, I know it's being done correctly. And normally these NASs stay on 24/7. We don't normally shut them off and turn them on. There's our beep. We should be able to log in now. So if I come back over to the downloads, I'll go back to the web assistant here, and back to window capture. So none of this matters anymore because we shut the unit off and turned it back on. I'm assuming we're still on 6868. Let's see if it logs us in. That does not look like a Synology loading screen. All right, yep, maybe I have to find it again. Find. If I can type the word find, we'll be on our way. Yeah, it's saying it's 6868. Let's just double click. That's better. All right, now this should be the old configuration that we just, when I say old, the one we set up just a few minutes ago. It should sign me in. And it's everything the way we set up, okay? 2 drives in RAID 0. But now when we go to the control panel under storage, where's our storage? Somewhere down here. Where is storage? Oh, you know what I normally do? I come up here. This is like a start menu. And we have this icon here called Storage Manager. I usually put that on the desktop. I think you right click and just click Add to Desktop. And then that way I don't have to go in here again. So if I close this out, you see I've got Storage Manager here. It's that easy to add it to the desktop. Okay, so we're back to Volume 1, Storage Pool 1, but under hard drives, it says drive 1 and drive 2 are unrecognized. And it's referring to slot 1 and slot 2. Again, we're not numbering the drives. But these are our 22 terabyte drives, which are reported in gigabytes as 20 terabyte drives. Okay, so, or is it gigabyte? I can't remember anymore. These terms are driving me crazy. How do we get these drives recognized? Is it possible? Is this possible? And therein is where we're stuck, because it doesn't seem to allow us to override their recommendation. So instead of simply telling us we don't recommend the drive, click here if you understand that to proceed, and we waive you're waiving any liability on us if you lose your data as a result. They simply remove that option. And I think that's really the issue that's at hand here. Is people are like, that's not cool. If I want to use my stuff, it would be like HP not printing unless you use their ink cartridges. HP not printing if you don't use their paper. The Synology's not working unless you use their drives. And they'll all tell you, well, it's just better experience for the customer if you use what we provide. But what they're providing isn't necessarily the best or at the best value. That's almost universally true. It should be a choice. And Synology, for one reason or another, was giving us the choice ever since day one. And starting this year, they decided they don't want to do that anymore. I don't know the decision behind that, if it's purely financial or if there's an actual legal issue they're concerned about. But I'd still like to be able to override this. Now remember, an operating system is just program code. It's not rocket science. And if you have any basic understanding of programming code, then you should have a basic understanding of getting in there and turning that feature off. Is that possible? Well, until there's another update that overwrites you overwriting them, then they're going to overwrite you, and then you can overwrite them again. I guess. I mean, who's to say how this is going to play out in updates? But assuming that they stay stuck to this ideal, they'll be the only NAS manufacturer that does so. Is that good or bad? We'll leave that to you to decide. It's showing us a little picture of which drives have problems, which is kind of cool if you're not sure which drives have problems. It physically shows you where they're located if you need that much help. It's there. Our storage pool isn't affected. We still have the 8 terabyte. Nothing is degraded in any way. But if we want to use these drives, we're going to have to hack the Synology. Maybe. Is a hack available? Could it be done? So if I jump over to, well, let me do this. Let's go back to camera 1 for a second. And let me jump to Google, and see how to change DSM for non-compatible hard drives. You can try updating the database, manually editing the Syno info config file, CNOF file, or modifying the Synology compatibility database file. However, Synology officially only supports drives listed on their compatibility list. But you have to understand, they haven't tested every drive on the market. So that compatibility list as it exists today may not be 100% accurate or complete. It's certainly not complete. And without them telling us, the end users, what it is that qualifies compatible versus non-compatible, we can't look for it ourselves. So it leads to this irresponsible behavior of using truly incompatible drives because you think you know better, when in fact there's a really damn good reason. But it will be your fault, and I don't know why Synology won't let it be your fault. Let me take a quick look here. So there's probably three different ways for us to bypass this. We can manually add the drive model and firmware version into the host database host.db file. This requires the sudo command. It requires SSH and telnetting in using a free app like PuTTY. Right? So for many of you, I just talked a whole nother language right there. This is not for the non-technical. But for those of you who understood what I said, you know that's not a big deal. You can also, my understanding is, edit a config file to change compatibility check from enabled to disabled. Well, that sounds pretty attractive to me. That sounds pretty simple. But again, we're going to use the sudo command with SSH through a service like PuTTY. Again, a free download to log in and make that modification. But do understand, if you choose to do that, Synology is strongly recommending you don't. Your consequences are your own. You cannot hold Synology responsible. And on top of that, not if, Synology updates the DSM software, it's probably going to put that all right back the way it was, unless your drives have since been added to the compatibility list if they're truly compatible, and they haven't done that yet. So, I don't even know if I want to try this live. This is something that I would normally do off camera, figure out. I'm going to stumble around because I don't mess with PuTTY very often. But once I'm in there, it's like riding a bicycle. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. And then, people watching the video, they think, oh, well, you're a content creator. You know everything about what you're showing on camera, or you shouldn't be showing it. That's not how life works. If I told them in return, you should only open your mouth about things you know very well, they probably wouldn't speak very much. They're not accustomed to not watching commercials. I'm not making a commercial here. I'm doing an honest to goodness, friend to friend. Let's look at this together. Let's work on it together. Let's experience together. And if they don't want that, there's plenty of commercials to choose from. Finding content like this on YouTube is near impossible. So if you don't see the value of it, don't punish me because you don't get it. It's okay. It wasn't meant for you to get. It's not content for you. Go find content for you. Otherwise, I'm just going to ban you if you have no impulse control. Now, Synology is probably not real happy about me working on a bypass, right? Because they don't support that. But if I can show you a way that you can make the Synology work for you, I want you to think about the logic here. If you're immediately writing Synology off because it'll be a cold day and HE double hockey sticks before you ever be told what drives you have to use, then Synology is losing customers. But if I can demonstrate to you an easy workaround that you can continue to use your drives, that ends up with Synology now getting back customers who realize, oh, I can do this, I would think they would appreciate that, they being Synology, because it could win some people back over that otherwise dismiss it. Because I'm not seeing really any content creators demonstrating this. I haven't looked in a while, but I might be the first. It's also possible the drives I'm using will eventually end up on the compatibility list when Synology gets around to it. It's also possible Synology decides they're losing too many customers because they're all not watching my videos. Even if I put the information out there, how do I get people to look for something they don't know what to look for? How do I get them to get the information they don't know that they knew information was there to look for? So the vast majority are going to make up their mind, remain ignorant of it, and move on. Now, if I show you the bypass, and assuming the bypass works, it still may not be good enough for you. But at least now you have an option to consider that Synology is not affording you, which they might, through an update or a change in their approach, that's always subject to modification and adaptation, pivoting and being flexible and adjusting accordingly to the response of the market. So between and if that happens and now, what do we do today? So I think we can log into this. I think we can give it a shot. But I'm telling you right now, I have never done this before. I do have programming experience, but it is not work I like to do. But I do like being able to work around obstacles that I feel like are not just. As a result, there could be consequences. Synology may have a very good reason for this that I'm too dumb to know. But if these drives worked in the 924 and the 923 and the 918, why wouldn't they work in the 925? It's not, as far as I can tell, it's still the same DSM. And at the end of the day, it's the operating system. As far as I know, the engineering in my mind says it's your operating system that defines your compatibility, not the individual hardware inside. But what do I know? I don't work for Synology, but in my 30 plus years of experience in hardware and software, that is one thing that has remained true. I've never experienced an exception. So if this is the same DSM that runs on the 923 or the 924 or the 9 whatever, and all we did is put it on a 925, and now suddenly drives that used to work aren't working, that seems like a marketing choice and not a technical one. Seems like. But for all I know, let's just assume that I'm able to bypass this, and even let's assume that it's easy. Until we use this every day and start relying on it, will we find out over the length of time that there are no consequences, or if there are consequences? And the problem is, by the time that we can definitively say we have a problem or we don't have a problem, it might be a year or two from now. At which point, this may no longer be an issue, negating the whole point of the risk. So you always have backups, okay? Obviously. And if you want to do something like this, you do this with that full understanding that it's without the company's support. But here's hoping that that compatibility list, whatever that issue was, if I'm doing something wrong, you know, that gets updated to include these drives, or that Synology comes forward with disclosing what is it specifically about those drives they're missing. Because we don't know that. That information is not being disclosed. To the best of my knowledge, it's secret. And that leaves me skeptical. Like, I don't think there is a reason. Like, I think there's a reason, but I don't think it's as rare as they're making it out to be. I think a lot of drives, made by other manufacturers, would probably pass this test, but we can't test it ourselves with official sort of checklist, because we don't know what the checklist says, other than it needs to say Synology. But Synology doesn't make drives. Synology buys the drives from Seagate, from Toshiba, and they modify the firmware. This is all true, but we don't know what they're modifying in the firmware other than the name Synology. That may be all, and technically they're not lying. And if it's any more than that, then why was it okay in the previous model when it's the same operating system? None of this on a technical mindset is adding up, but I also admit I don't have all of the information. And when companies or people withhold information willfully, then we're left to our imagination. Which is worse? Me imagining what the problem is, or actually knowing? Do you want to go to a doctor that can give you an accurate diagnosis, or do you want them to just guess? Let me just give you some prescription pills for that. That's probably, I don't know, I'm not even going to look at you. Just based on what you told me, take these pills, have a nice day. What do you mean he died? All right. There's liability, is what I'm getting at. So people have to be cautious with liability. But at the same time, acknowledging that on the screen and allowing the user to choose for themselves to accept that liability, to use a form of waiver, would very much improve the marketing concept of what Synology has decided to do here from perspective of a lot of users that are very vocal online. Dennis wants to know if they were having RMA issues. Google it. As far as I have not heard anything about any RMA issues, no. So Normally, I'm on top of the tech news. If something's going on that's, you know, bad product manufacturing or compatibility issues that's affecting a lot of people, I'm usually got my thumb right on that, you know. That doesn't mean it's not happening, but I'm not aware of it. Are you? Again, we're back to our imaginations, aren't we? Which is better? Which would you rather have, facts or fiction? And if the fiction is based solely on imagination, I mean, imagination is endless. Whatever you can dream up is possible, but likely is not accurate. Barry Klein says hello, just tuning in after the Carey Cam video earlier today. Yeah, you know, our internet's staying up, so far so good. Again, now that I've said it out loud, I probably jinxed myself. Let's get back over to, let's see, what do I need? I need putty, right? So you guys are like, what the hell is putty? All right, let's go over here. Let's share the screen. Here we go. And we want putty. P-U-T-T-Y, just like golf. Putty. Look at the first link. It's so common, it's so popular that Google assumes you must want this. And they're right. P-U-T-T-Y, a free SSH and Telnet client for Windows. That's what we want. This is some nerdy stuff, folks. I don't get into a lot of this nerdy stuff because I try and make content for everyone. But this kind of nerdy stuff is pretty basic stuff, at least what we're going to do. And I assure you, if I can do it, you can do it too. And if I can understand it, you can understand it. A lot of people that use this kind of stuff want you to think they're smarter than you. They're not. This is not rocket science. It's a little more advanced than clicking on the pretty picture of the coloring book that we call Windows. You actually have to read some words. I know you can do it. Okay, isn't that nerdy? I'm going to download putty. And no, look at this. We're still not even at version 1 yet. We want the 64-bit x86 version here if we had an ARM processor or an older 32-bit operating system for Windows, like maybe a 32-bit Windows 10, 7, XP. Anyway, so the first one is the most common one people want. That's why it's first. When we download it, how can I do this? Let's go back to the screen capture, I guess. Okay, so back in the screen capture, go to the downloads, click on putty, let's get it installed. Small program, no adware, it's all cool. There's a README file, can't be bothered. And we've installed the app. If I want to run the app, just click down here, P-U-T-T-Y, and that will start the app. And in here, we're going to put the IP address of the Synology, right, which we said was 192.168. Come on, Carey, you can type. This is all basic stuff, but we got to come through SSH. Okay, so we have to turn that on. It's not on for security reasons by default. Secure shell. Let's just not get into all the technical stuff. You can Google all this if you want to do a deep dive. Let me then go to our Synology again. So I'm going to come back to, let's see, we'll turn display capture off. I'm looking at these steps, which I think will work. Well, maybe not. This is back 4 years ago. I'm probably going to have to do something more modern than that. Pay attention to the dates when you're reading things online. The storage guy has a video that walks you through this. Now, that's not the storage guy. The storage guy, I think, is in India. And he's going to say, look, here's how you do this. And I cannot verify if this works or not, because I never had the ability to test it before. But this, I'm not dreaming this up. And you can see this guy only has 141 subscribers. There's only 309 views. So I feel like it's my responsibility to raise awareness on this if it's real. Or is this just some gullible, see how gullible I am. You might know you can patch your 923, but did you know some drives are so incompatible they won't even let you install DSM? That's what we're experiencing today. I ran into drives that block you right at the start. This means there really are three categories of drive: compatible ones that work out of the box, incompatible ones that at least let you install DSM, and super incompatible drives that won't even let you get that far. Okay, well, I thought he had a video that showed. Let's see. Let's go to videos. Drive compatibility fix. So we can follow what he shows here. And he has given me permission to show this. Now here he's got Synology DSM installed and he's getting a message. So what he's saying is the reason why this video won't work if you don't have any compatible drives is you'll never get this far, which is why we use the other two drives from Synology to at least boot into DSM, because we need that to telnet in. So, or SSH in. So he's saying here's a drive, it's a Seagate drive, it's an 8 terabyte Seagate drive, it's unrecognized. And what we need to do, he's talking, is we're going to follow these steps. He's searching for SSH, that pulls up terminal and SNMP. Let me pause this for a second. Let's go back over to our Synology NAS. I got to log back in. I see his point that if you don't have a compatible drive, you can't even get into the unit to make the modification, because you have to have DSM first. Control center, or control panel, I mean, terminal and SNMP, enable SSH on port 22, apply. Okay, so we did that. Then what's he do next? Got it. And he opens up PuTTY and he logs in here. So hold on a minute. Now he's gotten ahead of me. Let me go back to my screen capture. Bear with me for a second as I figure that out. There it is. So 192.168.68.68, port 22. I think that's all I need to do. Open it. That's fine, except log in as Carey. So the same login, same password. Okay. Oh, no, wait a minute. I think we're logged in. Yeah. Could not change directory to home. I don't care about that. All right. And what he did is he typed change directory ... which, you know, as far as I know, that's not a valid Linux command. You could do cd / no, cd space / yeah. And that takes us right where we are, right at the root. So that's fine. Let's go back to his video now. What does he do next? So he's at the prompt. I don't know, he typed clear for some reason. I guess that clears the screen. He's changing the directory to / etc. .defaults. etc.defaults. I don't think etc actually stands for etc. in this example, but that's okay. Change directory / etc.defaults. Is that a valid directory? It is. It took us there. See? You following what I'm doing here? It didn't give us an error. It brought us into a directory. Notice the directory is in blue versus a file. This is how things used to work back in the day. Have you ever used WordPerfect? You know you're in italics if the words are yellow. All right, let's go back over to the video. What's he do next? Sudo what? vim, sudo vim sync info. Well, you know, thanks a lot, guy. Let's go back. Oh, .conf. So it's a configuration file. Sudo vim syno info.conf. Very good. Let's try that out. Bring it back over to PuTTY. Sudo vim syno info syno info, is that what it was? .conf. Configuration. All right, it's just the shortcut for configuration. Enter. We trust you have received the usual lecture from the local system administrator. Oh, that's great. Don't go making changes to stuff that you don't own without the permission of those who own it. So I guess I have to enter my password in. Okay. Here's the code. Here's the configuration file. Now, if you look when he's in here, he's looking for a setting that's incredibly simple. Like, it's almost too good to be true. It's all alphabetized, right? He's in the A's, E's, whatever. Scrolls, L, M, N, P. Just looking at that first letter, and he's going to support. So the S's, support disk compatibility equals yes. Can that be honestly true? Can you go into the registry and type Windows crash equals off? Hey, I solved your crashing problem. This just feels like there's no way. Really? That's what he's doing? Well, I mean, all right. I feel like a fool, but I'm going to try it. Let's see. Well, first of all, my list is nowhere near as long as his. He might have typed something to open this up. So hold on a second. Let me go back for just a moment, because we're not getting this full configuration file, and I might have just missed a step.
FYI?
Yeah.
The ISP just stated it's been resolved.
Oh, now the ISP says we're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I believe it? Why is he getting a bigger listing than we're getting? There must be some command to press to open up the details of this file. Was it no. Oh man, it's been such a long time since I've used the VI editor. Come on, Carey. What is it? This is why I would do this off camera, because I'm stuck somewhere. And it's just, I can't remember. Did the sudo command? Yes. Use the lecture? Yes. We're just getting a piece of that. Is it Q? Exclamation. Q? No. I can't remember. Man, oh man. See, if I was just with the camera off, I wouldn't feel so in my own head about this. I thought it was Q exclamation. Oh, colon. Hit the colon first, then Q. How about ls? No. Hold on a minute. I'm holding the enter key down instead of the down arrow. Okay. I do not like the VI editor. It is so 1984. Okay, let's see. Disk compatibility equals yes. That is seriously there? Seriously. Okay, delete, delete, delete. NO. Wait a minute. I did it. NO. Quote. Then shift, we'll do a colon. No.
Hit the / and type in what you're searching for.
No, I found it already.
Okay.
Now, how do I exit this again?
Ask Barry Klein.
Colon? No. Why isn't colon
I already
working?
told you that.
Come on now, I can't remember. That's what I want. Disk compatibility, no. And then, oh, Barry knows this stuff, huh? But it was colon. And then we write and quit. So I'm on insert. How do I get out of insert? Escape. Then colon. Then write and quit. WQ.
Should I tell you again?
I think I did it.
:WQ.
Yeah, that's what I just did.
Okay.
But I used that information 10 minutes ago.
I've told you that before.
I told you I'm good at figuring stuff out. Doing it live on camera is just, having an audience watch me learn is a little bit nerve-wracking. Okay, in theory, I should be done. All right, let's turn that off. I do believe I've saved it, but if not, I can always go back in. We know how. I'm going to bookmark this guy's video because this, I've already given it a thumbs up. Pretty interesting to me that this doesn't have more views. So let's go back over to OBS and we'll turn off display capture back to our screen over here. And then we're going to come over to the Synology here and we'll reboot it. Restart for it to give a chance to read that config file again. Then we'll go back and look at our drives and see if it likes them now. Just like real life. That's how we get people to get along. Just need to go modify their config files with some archaic commands like :Q, :WQ. Yeah, good old days, man. I'll tell you what. This is why Windows was so amazing. Is it? You don't have to be of that mathematical physics kind of mentality to understand how to use a computer anymore. You look at the pretty picture and you click on it. But this is what you used to have to do. This is what kept the normals away. And some people want it back that way, and they will not share information. They just say, well, if you don't know, well, you got Google, all right? So you can be self-reliant if you want to be. You don't need anybody to help you. With that much confidence to be able to go look for your own answers, you won't need anybody's help that isn't. That's probably how they found it. But if you want it spoon-fed and privately tutored to you, you might find resistance in the community insulting you instead. Ask me how I know. Let me go back over to camera 1 for a second and see if we can put camera 1 back on the screen. And then back over to the chat room. Barry Klein said, I spend upwards of 10 hours a day in the VI editor. All of it is muscle memory. My muscles become flab in that arena. I've never used it much to begin with. So when I do use it, I grumble. VI, stupid VI. Can't use it. Simple interface. It's plain English. But it's not that I'm going, oh, this is too much information for my poor little brain to handle. No, it's usually really simple, basic stuff. So when somebody paints it out to be like, well, you know, this is really complicated. No, it isn't. If you think it's complicated, it tells me more about what you think is intelligence, because this ain't it. This is just familiarity. That's not the same as intelligence. So don't let anybody think that you're not smart enough for it. Trust me, if they know how to do it, it's probably really easy. Not that I'm insulting Barry Clyde. Barry says, I guarantee I can edit files faster than VI than anyone will ever do in a GUI editor. Well, that's probably true, for sure. Yes. I don't know that that makes it better, but okay. I see where you're coming from. Let me go back to, because I heard this beep, so we should be able to log in again if I can find it in my browser. Okay, let's try this again. I think I typoed my password. I felt 2 buttons go down. You know. That felt better. Storage. Hard drives. No. No. It worked. That was all we had to do. Just that? This is the big thing that's preventing people from buying Synologies? Seriously? What? Does it work? Let's create another volume. So we're going to keep this volume because if we restart with no DSM, then we lose the config file. So we still have to keep the DSM on there. So let's at least see if these two will work as another RAID array. Let's go back to storage pool 1. Let's create a new storage pool. Next. RAID type, Synology hybrid RAID. No, I think I still want to stick with oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yes, yes, let's do Synology hybrid RAID. I have an idea. Why do I? Oh, I sound like Jeff Goldblum. Oh, life finds a way. Oh, yes. Oh. Skip the drive check. Are you sure you want to get it? Yeah. Oh. Storage pool 2. And we should create a new volume on storage pool 2. Create volume. Oh, I can see an error in my logic already. I've got a RAID 0 on the first 2 drives. Yeah, I can see how that's gonna, I've just made my life miserable. Here's what I was thinking. Hold on a minute, let me get you back over to camera 1. This is so stupid. This is so bait. Like, when it comes to like hacking stuff, this is incredibly simple. And I'm here overthinking it like it's rocket science. If Synology, just follow me on the logic. If Synology hybrid RAID allows you to add more drives willy-nilly in the future to an existing array, then why can't I simply put DSM on one drive only, replace the rest of the drives as extensions to that one drive, and then at the very last step, change the one drive out so all 4 are now the same and they all work and match the compatibility list so that we could edit that config file. It's a little walk around the block, if you will, versus a straight shot, but there's probably an easier way to do this, but it's also simple. You might say, if I'm going over to the neighbor's house, I can walk straight from my front door, make a left to the neighbor's front door. Easy peasy. But I could also make a right, go all the way to the end of the block, walk to the next street, go all the way down to the end of that block, then come back around, basically making 3 right. 3 rights make a left, okay? Make another right. It's not difficult. I'm just walking. I'm not finding a new form of transportation. It takes longer, but it's not difficult. And then I can end up at the neighbor's front door that way too, right? It's a valid way to get to the front door. Just because it's not the shortest way doesn't mean we can't do it, or that it's the only valid way. So setting this up like this seems like it would be doable by simply creating a simple array with one drive, extending that array after we modify the config file into the incompatible drives, and then finally removing that one drive and replacing it with the rest of the matching other three, which was our intention out of the gate. That's too easy. It's too easy. It's, you know what it's like? It's like these little locks. These are kind of the idea of a lock, but they don't actually keep anybody out. Like a locksmith will laugh at this. You're going to call a locksmith to unlock this? You just pop it with a screwdriver. You don't need any special tools or intelligence to undo these locks. They're security theater. They're there as a way to avoid an accidental, like, oops, I didn't mean to eject the drive kind of a situation. So what had occurred to me is because I created the first two drives as RAID 0, I can't simply remove one and expand the Synology with hybrid RAID, because now one drive in RAID 0 won't function anymore. It's the effect of having half a drive. If I would have set it up as RAID 1, or I would have set it up as just one drive, would have been no big deal. I think that's all there is to this. But I cannot believe, first of all, wow, thank you to the storage guy for showing us that process. And thank you as an audience for patiently watching me struggle through an exceptionally easy thing. But that should inspire you, because if I just stumbled through it and I didn't have a walkthrough to follow, well, I kind of did, right? I had that guy's video, but I couldn't hear him talking. So some of the commands or whatever, I'm trying to go off memory. I'm trying to remember, was it, how do I get it? It's so stupid. The VI editor is just dumb. But it is what it is, right? So that's how we get to it. And PuTTY is free and it's no big deal. And you turn on SSH, so what? This is the big deal. Just to clarify, this is the big deal everybody's talking about. Those drives might be just fine when and if Synology gets around to updating the compatibility list. I bet you, I'll make a bet right now, those drives pass the compatibility test. They just haven't been tested yet, and therefore they're not on the list. I could be wrong. That is a bet I could lose. But then why do these drives meet the compatibility list of every other Synology using the same DSM? Logically, technically, that all fits. So again, I'm not encouraging you to do this, but I'm encouraging you to have self-reliance and to be empowered and to accept personal responsibility. If you don't want to do that, if you refuse to, or you're incapable of it, then follow the steps the way the Synology says. But if you're willing to accept your own responsibility and you want that freedom, it is within your ability to do it. There's nothing magical. I don't have any special tools or special knowledge. I learned it from somebody else sharing it. And anybody who won't share their knowledge, don't even give them the time of day. Those are horrible people. Now, why a company might do that is typically going to be a marketing technique. It's a way to, it's no different than saying you got to use our razor blades with our razors. You got to use our ink with our printers. And they'll tell you how, you know, all of these things could happen if you don't use our, well, those things could happen anyway, and other things can happen. And it ain't like they're selling their ink at bottom prices. If they made the ink more affordable than the competitors, they wouldn't need to scare you into buying it. You'd just buy it because it made sense. Once companies wrap their mind around the concept that people won't go and steal things if it's affordable to buy. Take Napster, for example. It's easier to just get Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music than it is to go and pirate music. It's cheap, it's easy, it's instantaneous, there's no risk. And now that's a $10 billion, what what is it, a month industry? Some ridiculous amount of money. Same with the movie industry. The minute you stop trying to put all the copy protection in place and just make it affordable and easy for people to legally get the content, they'll pay for it. They will. But when it's cheaper to pirate it, they're their own worst enemy at this point. The companies that make these marketing decisions, they're getting the public pissed off and justified to take something that doesn't belong to them. And I don't agree simply because the information is not being disclosed by Synology what justification they have for this. It's all just business speak with no real example. Give me a real world example. Show me what happens if I use a modern drive that works in other Synologies that is not compatible on this. Show me why. I don't want to hear about it. Show it. Otherwise,
Barry has a suggestion. If you're up for it, look at that comment.
oh. Barry says, I'm convinced the workaround means that the custom drive firmware is little more than a tag. Well, again, we're left to our imagination because there's no transparency here. And again, probably for a marketing reason, not an actual technical reason. Barry Klein said, I'm guessing that your solution would work fine. You're guessing. So am I. That's the point. We have no assurance. Barry says, sudo smart control-i drive. That'll list the firmware information in the drives. Yeah, we can easily pull the firmware version. That was the other site I had up from the Linus Tech Tip forums where they were talking about adding the firmware version into that config file. I thought that was way too much work. I'd rather just do this other command instead because we're just changing support compatibility yes to no. That's much easier. So you can see the firmware, as far as I know, you can see that in the Synology software. In other words, we don't have to sudo in. I think we can go back to the Synology DSM and then we can just look at the status of the drives right here, hard drives. This should tell us what the firmware is. Yeah, right here. Serial number, firmware. I guess I have to hit the down button. Right, these are the 4 terabyte drives. This is the 20 terabyte drive. Well, it's actually 22 terabyte. Now, obviously, if it's a 4K drive, that's different, all right? That's a different thing. But these Seagate drives are incompatible, according to Synology, and these Synologies are compatible. They have a very similar firmware, don't they? EN01 versus PL01? I wonder what those firmware revisions break down into definitions, what they stand for. They're not very different. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I was expecting them to not follow any of the same format. Number of characters, number of letters, the length, all of that I expected to be different, but these are just 2 letters apart. Of course, the serial number I wouldn't expect to be identical. That's, you know, who cares? And drive 1, I'm sure, is exactly the same here. Here's my point. I believe I can take these drives out, put them back in the Synology, running the same DSM, 7.22. I'm just looking to see if I have another Synology here. Hold on, let me see if I've got one. Let me test a theory. Now, granted, if you don't have another Synology, this doesn't really help you, but I'm trying to expose a loophole that shows there's no actual technical limitation and that the marketing developers are trying to create something that doesn't exist and get you to pay extra for it. I could be wrong, and I want to emphasize, I could be wrong. Let's try something here. Just for giggles, let's grab the Synology right here. And give me just a minute here. Oh, I can already see how this isn't going to work. Hold on. This uses different drive trays. So, I mean, I could do that and move the drives around, but I'm trying to be lazy. Hold on. Let me make a better choice over here. Do I have another Synology besides this one? Yes, I do. Okay. Does this one have drives? Yeah, this one has drives in it too. Great, whatever. That's fine. It's a live video. So this is just the way my mind works. You put up a barrier and you tell me I can't get past it, hold my beer. We'll see about that. I was 8 years old. The teacher said, "You're a hard-headed child." Yes, I am. I don't think that's a bad thing. All right, so bear with me here. This is going to be dusty. It's been sitting. Got to try a theory. Now, these look identical, don't they? Let me just... Don't mind. Look, a blimp. Get the dust off of there. There's no dust down there. What are you talking about? Let's put this up here. Okay. This is a Synology... Hold on. Where's my glasses? DS418. Okay, so the 400 series versus the 900 series. The last two numbers, the 18 or the 25, that's the year. So you get an idea how old an 18 is. And we already have drives in here. I don't know what I have in here. Oh, we have some Synology drives they sent us when we were reviewing. These are 8 terabyte drives. These will obviously be on their compatibility list, won't they? Interesting, Carey. I couldn't remember what was in here, but I could feel the weight of it. There were drives in here. Okay. Same drive trays, same enclosure, same operating system, but without the compatibility check. Try a theory. Let's shut this off. Wait for the beep. Okay. Now, I think it's even the same power brick. Well, this is a much smaller power brick. It's probably still 12 volts. It is 7.5 amps instead of 10 amps. So we'd be okay moving the power brick up. We can always go for less, but we can't go for more. But I'm just going to keep everything kosher and use the appropriate power supply just to reduce any chances of me screwing up, because I do that well enough on my own. Now, the last two drives, these were the Seagate 20 terabyte? No, those are the Synology drives. So the first two drives, this one, I need a bigger desk. Let's go up here. Okay, so remember we created a Synology RAID array on these, but we didn't create any folders or shares or volumes. We just formatted them as an array. There's no operating system on these. So when we turn this on, it should say, hey, these drives, you know, they don't have an operating system. Do you want to download it? No differently than we just did here. Should do the same thing here. It's not like Synology's changed that at all, best I can tell. So I'm going to just grab the internet cable out of the 925 and plug it into the 418, and they'll turn the 418 on. Hold it in. Oh, I got to plug it in. See, I told you I could screw this up all by myself. So we'll just plug that in, turn this on. Here's what I think. If we install DSM on these two drives, on this 418, or on anything that doesn't end in the 25, and then we move them into the 25, it'll say, oh, are you moving this from a 418? Yes, I am. Okay, here you go. I don't think it's going to say, well, those drives aren't compatible. I think it'll change its mind and tell us they're just fine. In other words, there's no, this is a theory, but there's no consistency in how they're defining compatibility if they allow this to work, but don't allow it to work the other way. So you're telling me the drives are incompatible if I go through the process you want me to go through, but if I'm upgrading from a previous Synology to the new one, then they're just fine? Am I understanding correctly? Is this a marketing thing they didn't think about? Because if it was a technical thing, it wouldn't work. If it was a marketing thing, whoopsie, I guess we didn't think of that. Or will this come up and say, sorry, these drives aren't compatible regardless? Because if it was a true technical limitation, then we should see consistency. And I strongly feel like this is marketing. I got a strong marketing vibe from this. And they're creating a technical compatibility issue that does not actually exist outside of some imagination of some non-technical person sitting in a marketing agency trying to come up with a clever way to trick people into value that isn't really there. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. This just beeped. Let's find it. Let's go back over to our window capture. Now this is no longer turned on, so we're just looking at an old screen here. Let's find Synology.com. See if our 418 is in here. Yep, DiskStation 418, that's us. Configuration lost. I'm good with that. Good. Next. So far, so good. Welcome back. Your DSA has been reset. I'm fine. Reinstall it. Automatically download and install. Yes. Next. All right. So we're going to go through the same process on a unit that's 7 years older with the same drives that are incompatible on the unit 7 years newer, but still runs the same operating system. Runs the exact same operating system. And you're telling me that these compatible drives stop being compatible with the same operating system? I must be really stupid, because that doesn't make any sense. I cannot wrap my mind around that. All right, while we're waiting, let me just jump back over to camera 1 for a second so I can hit the chat room. All right. I see the conversation in the chat. All good. I'm with you. I understand. Hopefully you're with me and understand. Let's go back to Synology is still installing. We're at 68% over there. Okay, while we're waiting, let's go ahead and take these two drives. We know that this unit, this 925, will not boot without our two 4 terabyte drives. So these are the 4 8 terabyte Synology drives that came out of the top unit. These are the two 4 terabyte drives Synology. And again, this is not to snub Synology. I like Synology. I just don't know why they're being so restrictive. What did I do to deserve that? What did any of us do to deserve that? If there's a real technical reason, they are not being transparent with what it actually is. They're not giving us any real world examples. They're not demonstrating it. So because of that, I remain skeptical. I find personally, when companies are vague, there's a reason why. It's very rare for anybody to be honest and say, I didn't know, I don't know, and I'm sorry. In other words, if I'm asking somebody to give me the technical reason, what I hear from typical places is, we'll have to check into that and get back to you, instead of I don't know, but I can look into that for you. That's concerning to me, because that means that is not ubiquitous knowledge. That is so important knowledge that you're restricting access to the drives, but you don't know what it is, and you're just accepting it as a truth. Or you do know what it is and you won't tell me because the company doesn't want us to know. This is what happens when you leave it up to the imagination. I have no choice but to just use my imagination and think, well, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. And I could be completely wrong and they're not helping. So I'm going to remain skeptical and I'm going to run my own damn test. And I want to find the hypocrisy if there's any. Because in theory, if these drives don't work in this unit before, they shouldn't work in the unit after we configure them here. And I bet you they will. I never had this unit before today. I can't possibly know this from experience. I am making an educated guess based on my understanding of technology. And I've been wrong before. So let's just find out, because otherwise I'm only still left with my imagination. It's up to me, since I'm not getting help from them, it's up to me to figure it out and get to the truth. Since, again, if you go to some of these forums and ask for help, and they're like, well, if you need help, then you don't belong here. You can still be self-reliant and figure it out yourself. And I'm demonstrating that live on camera. Nobody has to give me permission to give me information that I assume is true. I can verify through experience what the truth is, and I don't care what anybody on the internet has to say about it, or any company representative. It doesn't change reality. So why hold back? Why restrict it? What are we missing that's so secretive that you can't tell me? That you can't give me a live demonstration? Because of those factors, I'm suspicious as heck. All right, so right now it says it's restarting. So that means DSM has been installed. Let's do our config. As soon as this reboots. So here's the difference. And I want to talk to you about the hypocrisy of it all. Technology has no hypocrisy. It always is, or it always isn't. There is never a maybe and sometimes with ones and zeros. It's one or the other. It's on or it's off. It's always the same. It's always repeatable. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are. It's always the same. It's not imagination. It's not speculation. It's not gossip. It's not conjecture. If by changing the config file, we get an update that updates the config file, we're back to non-compatible drives. But if by migrating the drives from one unit to another, that means anytime we get an update, it stays compatible forever. Which one is it? I'm making an assumption that these drives are going to migrate over. Maybe they won't. There's one way to know for sure. All right, we're getting there. We'll wait for that to complete. Let me jump back over to the chat room. All right, I think it's ready for me. Same operating system. Device name, DS418. Administrator account, Carey. Password, Everything is the same because it's the same operating system. Same check boxes. I'm going to answer everything the same. And there's our DSM. Create a storage pool. Storage pool 2. So it recognizes we already created a storage pool. Look at here, storage pool 2, Synology hybrid RAID. Total capacity is 20 gigs. Well, no, our 20 capacity should be, oh, that's right, because it's a Synology hybrid RAID. That's why I did that, so I could add more drives later. That's fine. No, I'm good with it. That's good. And maximum size. Okay, perfect. That's what I want. BTRFS, yes. Next. Storage pool, apply. That's what I want. Okay, so because I've got SHR set up as my RAID, I can then add a third drive and a fourth drive. Let me show you. All right, so we're done with all this. Everything, as far as I'm concerned, is complete. If I want to create a folder, I mean, I can. I can go over here to our, see, everything's healthy. It's happy. Storage, overview. It's all good. Let's go to close that. I like to add the little storage icon down here, so we'll hit our start menu. Right click on storage. Where is it? Right up here, storage manager. Right click, add to desktop. And then if I, how do I get out of this? Escape? No? I don't remember. Just hit the back button maybe? I don't know. Probably something simple, but now I've got what I wanted here. If I want to create, all right, we've got a volume, so we just need to create a share. So let's go to our control panel. Oh, let's update our packages just like we did before too. Right? This is like doing the updates to Windows. We just did a fresh install of the operating system. So I'm just going to repeat everything we already did on a 925 because it's exactly the same, only now we're using supposedly incompatible drives that work fine on a 418 without any complaint or issue. Everything's normal, and they've been working fine. But all of a sudden on the 925, they're not fine anymore, and nothing changed. I am very skeptical. All right, so everything is set up the same. We just need to create that public share one more time with the guest account, just to prove a point. Or be proven wrong. Okay. Very good. It's happy. Shared folder. Create a shared folder. I'm going to call it public. Enable the recycling. That's fine. Skip that. Next. Next. I want guests to have read-write access. The problem is the guest account is disabled, okay? So then we got to go under users, go to guest, which is deactivated, and permission, where is it? It's in here somewhere. Deactivate this account. I'm always looking for enable, disable. Not disable is the option I'm looking for, apparently. Do not disable. All right, in theory now, I should be able to go to the web address, right, ds418/public, and it should open a folder and not require me to sign in. Except I typed ds419, which is not the name of the unit. I named it ds418. And the folder opens with no login requirement. Everything's functioning perfectly, exactly as I expected to. Let's shut it down. Go over here, shut down. This is another way to shut down a NAS or restart it if you don't want to If you don't have access to it physically to hit the power button, this would be the preferred way. Let's go back over to camera 1. Okay, so we're going to wait for this to turn off. And we're going to move these drives, take them right out of this Synology, put them in that one. And this one should say, these drives are not compatible. You can't use these, because that's what it said. Is it going to change its mind and say, oh, they're fine? Oh, you're good now. Like if I put a little mustache on, I'm Bizarro Carey. That's a different, I'm a different Carey now. I'm Superman. I'm Clark Kent. Wait a minute. Clark Kent, Superman. Fooled you, didn't I? Hold on. Where'd Carey go? Oh, here I am. This is what I feel like is happening right now, but let's just prove this out. Take your bets. Is this unit, the 925, going to say, no, these are incompatible drives? Or is it going to say, oh, you're upgrading, no problem. Excuse me, I'd like a table for 2. Oh, we're all booked up today. Oh, Mr. Celebrity. Oh, we have a table for 2. Come this way. But is that what's happening here? Because these are the vibes I'm getting. All right, once again, internet cable. I'll plug it in down here. Power cable, unplug from here. Plug it in here. Turn this on. Because this is a hybrid RAID, it shouldn't matter if we've got 2, 3, 4 drives. That doesn't matter. We're beyond that now. Because now I should be able to just add more drives and they should be fine. Unless it tells us right out of the gate we still can't use these drives, which is what it did. Same drives, same unit. Wait for the beep. It's a riveting video, I know. This is what real life is. I'm sorry, guys. It's not always a roller coaster of excitement every day. Get used to it. Doing something. There's our beep. What does that mean? Let's find out. We're going to go back over to the web page here, which, you know, it sort of just leaves it in the last state. So this is no longer valid for us. We need to find the new IP address. Or we could, you know, look for the 418. Remember, it's still going to have the name 418 in the array we created, but the unit itself obviously is going to be detected. Here's the 925. We're back to that 6868, the end user license agreement. Wow, what's going to happen, guys? Welcome back. This is what I wanted TerraMaster to do. This is why I had so much confusion. This is my reference point of how Synology sets the perfect example that other competitors miss. We've detected you've moved the hard drives from a DS418 to a DS925 Plus. You can now migrate your data and settings. Migrate. Do you want to retain your system or reset it? Well, obviously, I want to retain it. Automatically download and install? I mean, we just did, so sure, go right ahead. We could not do this before. It wouldn't let us put DSM on these drives an hour ago. Now it says they're fine. Or will it come back after the update and say they're not fine? Place your bets. What do you think is going to happen? I think I know. I think it's going to work fine. Restarting, that's fine. I'll restart. Go back over to the chat room. I like consistency. I like to be able to reproduce everything regardless. I don't like feelings or emotions that can just change on a whim for no apparent reason. I like logic. I like consistency. I like predictable outcomes that are always the same no matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing. 2 + 2 always equals 4. And if you're saying, well, sometimes it equals 5, I don't want to talk to you. It's nonsense, jibber jabber. You might as well just make up words. Blah, 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 blah. Because that's all I hear. So if something's incompatible, expect it to be incompatible. I don't expect it to be sometimes incompatible depending on, well, did you start with your right foot or did you start with your left foot? Shouldn't matter. The steps are the same. But they're not. Well, then something's wrong with the steps, not the feet. It's annoying, but we're not there yet. I'm coming to conclusions here, but I might be premature. Let's check back in and see how it's doing. Here's my browser. Oh, it's still rebooting. We're not missing anything. I guess we just need to wait for the beep. In the meantime, let me get back over to the chat room. Mark Liebowitz thinks a blue monster is going to jump out of the DS925 Plus yelling, "Cookie!" There's our beep. Can I go back to it now? Is it waiting? No. We're still on a countdown. Now, when you're actually migrating a real working NAS that has folders and data on it, this can take quite a long time. This is not an accurate recreation of the process, given that depending on how many apps you have installed and how you've got this thing configured and how full it is of data, this migration process could take hours. So we're just trying to get to the nitty-gritty here. And interestingly, we are getting updates to the DSM, which are clearly only related to the unit, not to the software. So some features of the unit that DSM updates that did not need updating on the 418 because the 418 doesn't have those features. Does that justify the incompatibility, or is it simply Synology hasn't gotten around to testing it? Instead of saying we haven't tested it yet, they just go, no, it's not compatible. It's not compatible because why? Because we haven't tested it to see if it's compatible. Well, could you be a little more transparent about that decision? That you just simply haven't verified one way or the other, and you're defaulting to no to be safe? Maybe give me an override, that would be nice. Don't think I'm a complete idiot. Maybe treat me with a little more respect. Let me click on waivers that I fully agree and understand that I am being a moron by not following your advice, instead of just restricting me from it and forcing me to have to hack it. Is that really what you want? Do you think you're winning people over with that? Updating secure sign-in service, okay. Well, at least I wasn't outside today at 116 degrees Fahrenheit. Give you that. And at least the next few days it'll cool off a little bit. And throughout this video, do not think for 1 minute I don't like Synology. I do like Synology. I use Synology myself. My clients use Synology. I support Synology. This feels a little like a betrayal. That's all I'm saying. What did I do? What did I do? And how come Synology's always been consistent and they've decided to change that, and that means you're not consistent anymore? To what benefit? How does that benefit the consumer that you guys decided to not be predictable and consistent? I'm not saying there isn't a reason. I don't know what it is, and they're not telling me. It's just some boilerplate corporate nonsense. It's just better. Give me real world examples. Show me. Show me where this drive fails the compatibility. Show me. But we don't know. We haven't tested it. Then stop blocking it if you haven't tested it. If you have tested it and it fails, then absolutely block it. But you should still even give me permission to override that. I am the owner. Am I not? Well, I suppose technically they sent me the review. It belongs to them. But these drives are mine. Anyway, I don't know. I'm just looking for a little respect, that's all. A little common courtesy. They've always given it before. Always. Always, always, always. What changed? It's taking a long time, whatever this update is. We do everything live, unscripted, unrehearsed, in one take, no edits. So what you're seeing is how it's really happening. My reactions are not planned. I don't know what's going to happen. I assure you, whether they're right or wrong, whether you agree with them or not, they are honest. From my perspective, they're honest. I have no axe to grind. Okay, this is taking a while. I think I'll jump over to the chat room while we're waiting. As you can see, things are cooking along over there. Over to the chat. And this all suggests it's all about the money. Well, again, that's your imagination, right? As long as no answer is given to us, we can come up with anything. Maybe it's because the ghost of Teddy Roosevelt told them in their sleep. I don't know. Come up with anything. It's just as valid. Unless the company wants to clarify for us, what choice do we have? Maybe it's because my dog Toto is haunting me from the dog farm at the other Rainbow Bridge and is letting me know that she's still really pissed off at me. Sure, okay. Whatever you got, man. It's just as valid as anything else you can dream up. So Synology could put this to bed by just being transparent and demonstrating exactly what they're protecting us from, rather than just some boilerplate corporate nonsense. It's just better. No, that's not good enough. Not for me, and not for a lot of Synology users. So if we didn't care, we'd have nothing to complain about. The fact that so many, listen carefully, the fact that so many people are complaining, are doing so because they care. You're going to get mad at people for caring about you? You're going to get defensive to people who care about you. Because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. Meaning, if you did this and nobody cared, is that what you want? Apathy? Do you want loyalty from consumers who are passionate about your product? And when they complain, they do so because they're so passionate they care enough to complain. To say, justify this. You're breaking my heart over here. Because I care. If I didn't care, it wouldn't break my heart at all. Get it? All right, let me jump back over and see how we're doing. We've gotten nowhere. We're still updating the secure sign-in service. Please do not shut down the system during this process. All right. I will abide by that request. Back over to the chat room. I don't understand why this is taking so long. Do I have to do like a refresh? Package update may take some time. Because it's a migration? I mean, the software is not that big. The internet connection is fast. The processor in this is fast. Why is this taking so long? I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt that it's doing something, and I don't know why it's taking so long, but I've seen impatience cause a lot of computer problems in my life, and I don't want to add to that. So give it a little bit more time. And yeah, while we're waiting, and again, you're not missing anything here. It's still the same. It's got a progress, you know, the lights are blinking like something's happening. And I want to know if this is actually going to complete or if we're stuck. And if we're stuck, is it because of a compatibility problem with the hard drives? So let's just wait and see what happens here. We'll give it a few more minutes. And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to refresh the web page and see if it just isn't refreshing the page. It's what it feels like it might have forgotten to refresh. That's different from shutting the unit off, by the way. I should be able to refresh the page without any concern for harm to the NAS or the data. It's 10 after 7 p.m. here in Phoenix on the 19th of June, 2025. I'm not sure how much longer I want to give this. I do feel like it's not refreshing. I just can't imagine that would take this long. I'm not even using the secure sign-in service. I'm going to give it till 7:15 Phoenix time. It's 7:11 according to the clock on the screen. That's 4 minutes. If it doesn't complete in 4 minutes, we'll refresh the browser because for all I know, it's waiting for me to sign in and it just didn't refresh. Or it's legitimately doing something and it won't interrupt it, by the way. Just refreshing the browser doesn't interrupt this. Shutting it off does, and that's what they're asking you not to do. Don't shut it off. Fine. David Graham says maybe it's calling home for permission to use the old drives. It's all up to your imagination, my friend. Maybe it's calling Mars and talking to an extinct species through a language and communications method we don't understand as humans to talk to life we would not identify as life in order to grant permissions for us to use the hard drive. Sure. Sure, why not? At some point, you'll understand the absurdity of guessing. Mark Gaines says it's 3:15 in the morning in Northern Ireland right now. So that's what, about 8 hours ahead, I guess you are. I guess it's Friday over there now, huh? 3 more minutes if this thing doesn't move on. There's no way this is normal. Something right here. Tell you what, I feel pretty confident we're just stuck. So what I want to do is go back to my window capture. Look, there's a lot of things I could do. I could leave this on, I could go to dinner, give it an hour and a half. I don't feel like something like this should take as long as it's taking on what are basically blank drives with only an array and no data on a shared folder that has nothing in it. So I'm going to refresh, and it's waiting on a sign-in, which is what I thought it would be doing. It's exactly what I thought it was doing. Now, the DS418 is the name of the unit. It's not the model. See, I might have confused you all, but we're not on the DS418. As you can clearly see in the first camera, This is where I might have caused some unnecessary confusion. This is the DS418. It's got no drives in it. This is the 925. Look closely. The models haven't changed. I've not done any switcheroo. I just labeled the drives as 418, and when I moved the drives, the label stayed. Okay, there's no trickery. Like I'm going to go through all that effort to trick you. All right, let's do the login. Skip for now. Storage manager. Hard drives. Migrated from another system. Yes, that's true. And is that good or bad? It's not telling us it's not working. All right, so then what do we do? I don't know, reboot the thing? Does it reboot? Repaired incompatibility of Active Insight, Quick Connect, SMB, and Secure Sign-In. Okay. SAN Manager does not support auto update. Yeah. Fine. That's fine. Clear. Restart. You want to restart? I do. Okay. Let's restart. Back over to camera 1. You can see for your own eyes, this 925 is now restarting. The 418 is empty. I'm waiting to hear a beep. Takes a minute. That's normal. I'm curious if it's just always going to say we migrated, or after a reboot, will it go back to healthy, or will it go back to incompatible? What's it going to do? I'm getting different information. I want consistent information. I hear the drive starting to reinitialize again, or spin up, restart. Waiting for a beep. The lights stop flashing. Drives are loading. There's our beep. Go back to window capture. Go back to sign in. And I got to type password correct. There we go. Dismiss that. Storage manager. Hard drives. Migrated from another system. Right. So what good does it tell me that for? Like, so what? There are, oh, here we go. There are compatibility issues between your Synology NAS and this drive. Back up your drive and replace it with a compatible drive. Hold on a minute now. Hang on a minute. That's consistent. That's so. But here's the thing. It wouldn't even let us put DSM on it before. Now it is. So why did it let me just to tell me, oh, you really shouldn't do this? Well, could I understand the risks and still accept them, or not? They can't seem to make up their mind there either. DS925 plus category internal tray, find drives. It's all just Synology brand. Nobody's compatible but Synology. Nonsense. Nonsense. Where's my files? Hold on. That's for finding the drives. Where's the downloads? Well, we've already downloaded that compatibility file, right? that we weren't able to use? Is there another way to update the compatibility list within the software itself? Settings. System is in a warning state. Interesting. Control panel. I think this is only for DSM, not for the drive compatibility list. Is there another way to update the drive compatibility list? I guess I could Google it. How to update drive compatibility list DS925 plus. You need to ensure it's in up to date in the update drive, then update the drive database via the storage manager. Okay. So it's in the right place. Storage manager. Right over here. Where do you? I don't see any place to update. Where is it? Here's the next thought. If there's an update file, then what's inside of it, and why can't I put what I want in it? I'm not saying that they want you to, but if they can do it, what's stopping me from, or anybody else from putting whatever they want in there? All right, let's go back over how to update. Go to drive information, select the drive you're interested in, click on settings, and then choose either update now or manually. Go to drive information and select the drive you're interested in. All right, let's try that. Drive information. Select the drive we're interested in. Yes. Click on settings. Okay, I don't have a settings. Oh, this settings. Drive database. The last update was the 19th of June. Manual update. Browse. And it was this file right here. Okay. Apply. Wow, that was well hidden. So settings, advanced, drive database. And that is the same database, 619. That's probably in the file name. Okay, so far so good. So now what I want to know is, if I open up that .ca file just using Notepad, just out of curiosity, is it all going to be hexadecimal, or is there actual English in there? So right now, I'm just getting a toilet bowl, and Notepad does not want to open this. It could be a compressed file. There could be a lot of things going on here that that would otherwise obstruct it from easy viewing, like a text file. That doesn't mean it's just not an open database file. And Notepad is just not happy. It just doesn't know what to do with this. which, by the way, if you tried to open like an executable file in Notepad, it would behave very similarly. So a .sa file, let's do how to view contents of .ca file Synology. I mean, why reinvent the wheel if somebody else has already done it? Certificate authority. Okay, well, good for them that they want to make sure it's not easily modified for security reasons. I'm good with that. That makes sense to me. However, even those can be hacked. So, you know, there's no absolutes in this world, and at least there is some consistency. So I will say this. At this point, what we've been able to determine is they will allow DSM to install if it's migrated over, but they don't allow DSM to install if it's a new install. But you can, in theory, take a Synology NAS, plug it in here, install DSM as a hybrid RAID, expand the RAID, but it looks like we're probably going to get the notification like you're in a warning state because you're still using incompatible drives, but at least it will function fine. We can edit the comp file, which I've already demonstrated, to turn that checking off, and then the drives are happy, but then when you get another update, they're probably going to put the comp file back. On the other hand, they could also update the certificate of the compatibility list, rather, because they haven't, I'm telling you, they haven't checked these. If they would bother to check them, I bet you they meet the compatibility list. So the default, as far as I'm concerned, should be the other way around. The default should be all drives are compatible unless we have reason to say they're not. They're saying all drives are incompatible unless we have tested them and prove otherwise. So you're guilty until proven innocent. I do not like that philosophy. At the very least, the age of the drive should be a factor as well. If we're looking at a drive that's 10 years old, right, likely it's not going to be compatible. So we can default to, yeah, it's probably not. If the drive is newer, that doesn't guarantee it's compatible. But how can a drive that was compatible before stop being compatible now? That's where I'm having a difficult time, because Synology is not being clear. And the reason I think they're not being clear is you don't really want to, they don't want you to know the truth. That would not behoove them. But there is something to be said about honesty. When you're hiding something, when you're knowingly and willfully hiding information, when you're withholding it, and it only leaves your consumers and journalists and reviewers to use their imagination, how is that better than just being honest? Just be honest. And if there's a legitimate technical reason for this, where this specific Synology, these specific 22 terabyte Seagate Ironwolf drives that have always worked, always, suddenly they're not compatible anymore, demonstrate to me why the Synology Ironwolf 22 terabyte drive is not compatible. Show me, help me understand. Otherwise, I think you're just making it up. And you know why I think that? Because you've left me no choice. What choice do I have? There's a reason why you're not telling me. And I can imagine there's no good reason. You're hiding it on purpose. Why would you hide that on purpose? This is what happens when you leave it to my imagination, to the imagination of your customers. Come out and be clear and transparent. Earn the respect that you deserve. And be honest. And show us. Prove it. If there's a danger with an Ironwolf 22 terabyte drive, show me. Or it doesn't exist. I really like Synology. I know it doesn't sound like I do. I'd have a lot more respect if they were just honest about it. And by honest, I mean transparent. Come out with it. One way or the other, just come out with it. In the meantime, there are workarounds. It's not rocket science. I can't tell you for sure that this Synology is going to be just fine. I don't know. It's up to your imagination. All right. Well, this was a fun video. I was really looking forward to this because, you know, we love the Synology we have. We've loved the Synologies, all of them. And so I'm just trying to figure out what's changed. Is it the tech that changed or the people in charge? Because I think it's the people in charge don't really understand or respect their customers, because you wouldn't do this to your customer. Not if you really understood your customer, you wouldn't do that. And if you were going to do it, you'd justify it with proof, evidence, and explanation. You're supposed to lead the example. If nobody else in the NAS industry is doing this, what do you know that they don't? Aaron Werner just became a supporter. Thank you, Aaron. We had a little bit of an internet hiccup here just a moment ago, so if you got a pause or a buffer, that was on us. Aaron says, Carey's the reason I built my first computer. I enjoy this channel. Thank you, Aaron. Will Synology see this video? Yes, they will. David Graham said, Synology just dropped off my list. You know, give them a minute. There's maybe a misunderstanding here. Let's give them a chance. Give them the benefit of the doubt, because they've never done anything sketchy like this, to my knowledge, ever in the history of the company. This is unprecedented. And there should be somebody with a name that is responsible for this decision who should be able to explain it to us. And we will invite them on the show for a live interview to demonstrate to us what it is that makes the drive incompatible and help educate us in why we're so misinformed. I strongly suspect they're going to be too busy to join us. But that invitation is open, because I would like to learn more about this weird compatibility problem that no other NAS maker has. Where'd it come from? Where's it going? Can we expect more of this? Is it time to move away? Or is this a temporary mistake that you're willing to correct? All I have is my imagination, because there's no information. I do want to thank Synology for sending the unit for review, because we were gonna get one for review and look into this. I'm tired of all the conjecture and gossip online. I want to see evidence, and I've just shown you evidence. And if I'm doing something incorrectly, and if I'm not understanding, please, please educate me. I don't want to walk around sounding like a fool. Our friends over at SCD Keys, thank you guys so much for the discount they offer to all our viewers for 30% off Microsoft Windows and Microsoft Office products. 6 months of support. It's all legit. It's all real. And you have peace of mind. It's not some scam. They're not stealing your money. They're not selling you stolen product. It's real. And it's not a commission-based link for us. We put that out there as a service for our viewers in the hopes that you can have peace of mind by getting your software securely and legitimately.
Email.
And Mara says we have an email, and I think that'll probably wrap it up for today. And of course, thanks to Mara for all of the work she does tirelessly in the background, getting this video set up last minute, and then dealing with the internet outage and everything in the background. Oh, she reminds me, we do have a banner for SCD Keys, and the reason why we're starting to get a little bit more aggressive with the SCD Keys, let's do that banner, is it seems like people aren't using the coupon code. So if you're buying SCD Keys, don't you want the 30% off? I mean, I don't know how often people are buying Windows and Office keys, but all I can tell you is if people aren't using it, we're going to stop offering it, right? I mean, we'll move on to some other things. So we're doing this for the viewers, and if the viewers don't want it, so maybe they don't know. Maybe if we just present it a little bit more. I don't know. Let me check email right quick. Oh, Barry Klein. Barry says, hi, Mara. This one is something different for you and Carey. If you don't already have a copy, check out item number. Oh, okay. I'm an evangelist for FSM, so I need to spread the gospel. If you already have it or don't want one, grab something that tickles your singular or plural fancy for Studio C. A $25 Amazon gift card. Right on. Thank you, Barry. Thanks for your help earlier and your supportive, cheerleading with the VI editor and me, because, yeah, I'm pretty rusty with that. And, yeah, if you were here, I would have just asked you to do it for me. I get by, and then I'll forget whatever the commands colon and Q and WQ. I will never retain it because I don't use it regularly, unlike you. And yeah, that'll wrap it up for me for today. We have a computer build scheduled for tomorrow. Every Friday at 1 o'clock, we are live, assuming our internet is up. And I've got a mini ITX build to prep. Prepping means I'm going to get the board, the CPU, a cooler, some RAM, storage, update the BIOS. This is all mini ITX. Just hook up a power supply externally, hook up a power switch externally, get everything installed, updated, make sure it all works, because it didn't work last Friday and we had to send a board back. We sent back the MSI, we got an ASRock board instead. And if all that works, then the next Friday we'll be putting it into a case, which we haven't decided yet. And based on that, we'll determine the actual cooler we will finalize on and the power supply we will finalize on once we figure out which case we want and what it can hold. And that's the next couple Fridays. Those videos are always free. If you want to interact with us, please become a member. We have too much distraction in the public live interactions. I don't mind the public comments. I don't mind things that occur after the video's live. But unfortunately, the public has been too disruptive. So we've had no choice but to say, if you want to interact with me while I'm live, please support me so we can go out and buy this stuff that we're reviewing here. If we stuck with only what companies sent us, we wouldn't have had these drives to test with, and we wouldn't have seen this other side of the review. Think about it. So while we do appreciate the cooperation of Synology, we also appreciate the support of our viewers, where we don't have to absolutely rely on any corporation's appreciation or consideration. We can continue to buy products we're interested in using the money that comes in from our viewers, not from traditional corporate sponsorship. You might think that's a traditional corporate sponsorship. You think what you want. The bottom line is we're trying to do things for our viewers that we think our viewers unanimously appreciate. So if I offer other products, it may not apply to you. If I offer other software, it may not apply to you. But we're all probably using Windows license keys, probably. And I'm sure many of you want Microsoft Office, but you don't want to pay an arm and a leg for it. But if I'm wrong, we can change and do something else. But without the viewer support, I'm telling you, you'd be looking at commercials all day long. And that's what other content creators are doing. They're making long-form commercials. They're getting paid by corporations, and corporations have to approve the video before you're allowed to see it. So you won't know what they don't show you. I do everything live. There's no way I can hide anything from you. You'd be pretty suspicious if suddenly, oh, my camera's not working. And then there's a whole different product on the desk. How did that happen? Come on. I don't treat people like they're that dumb. I would not do that to any of my viewers. So I hope you catch those details when you watch other content. Who's paying for it? I'm being very transparent about it. What we do is up to you and your support. And to show my appreciation, you can interact with me live if you support me. It's that easy. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Mark Gaines. Thanks to Charlie Purdy. Thank you to Buster. Thank you to Barry Klein. And thank you to, I think I'm missing somebody. Did I say Mark Gaines? I always forget Mark. Thank you to Mark Baggett as well. And of course, all of our members who make these videos possible. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. I will see you all tomorrow, 1 o'clock. I hope you'll join me. Until next time, bye for now.